Great to be back, man. I'm feeling better. I'm sorry.
Thank God.
I wasn't
You're
here
there.
last
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
You
no.
had a great show planned, but
Yeah.
you got another great
No,
show
no,
tonight.
it's perfect. It's perfect. We're going to kind of rehash that and go into other things from it too. We'll spring from that too. So,
Hey,
yeah,
everybody.
we
This
didn't lose
is
anything.
the Danny Cadota Show. You all know Danny, one of the greatest sport fishing captains in Southern California. He brings such a rich history to his show. And not only that, he's a heck of a nice guy. And you'll be able to ask him questions here tonight. Any question you like. Well, maybe not any question,
Yeah, we'll
Danny,
take we'll
but
take most of them, probably all of them.
you've got
Yeah.
a letter sitting in front of you from a guy from Missouri.
Yes.
We
How
can't
cool
read
is
the name
this?
of the gentleman,
Yes.
but it was so nice and so deeply
Awesome.
appreciated, right?
Absolutely awesome. It talks about fishing in the 80s and 90s with Fuji here, who was right here at the Daiwa, and on the Daily Double with Mel Shears. And we knew all these guys, and Mel down in San Diego and everything. And it talks about, having his number 6 fly line chovy hook that maybe we will get to implement this summer. I'm still saying, folks, I'm still thinking albacore. I don't care what anybody says, but here's two things that lead me that direction too. To Opah. I know the
I saw that.
American angler got one for. Who was the other one?
I'm not sure who the other
But
one
I
was,
know
but
there
there
was
was
another.
two.
There's two
Yeah,
caught. So I have never seen Opah caught
when there was an
when there
albacore.
was an albacore around.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So I think if they're not very close, they're on their way.
We had
And
a
I know
really
they're big.
knowledgeable guy on our YouTube channel, a guy up in Morro Bay, and he was saying he's very knowledgeable. And he went into a whole explanation. He goes, "We are definitely." He bet his house on albacore from Morro Bay. Now we're a little bit further south, but
Yeah, yeah. No,
man,
but when you see the signs,
yes,
you know, I think we're going to see them, folks. I'm going to see them. I talked to my brother, and they're seeing more and more chovy in the receivers down there in San Diego, and it's not that you're going to have a glut of anchovies, because I remember in even the record years of 1984 and 85, there's a lot of bait rationing going on in San Diego Bay, and I was very blessed because that was the first year we had Islandia from 84 to 87, and I had the Mustang and I had the Fortune over there at Islandia, and we were the only overnight boats. Seaforth were doing exclusively half day boats, so we were the only overnight boats going out. So we were tanking between the Fortune and myself. We're tanking 100 scoops every night on each one of our boats, and then kind of sharing it with our friends when we got outside on the grounds. But the chovies were rationed a little bit. And of course, with albacore, you may not know this, but the way we fish and chum albacore is considerably different than when you're on tuna. You know, you won't see the guys like on yellowfin or anything where we're throwing brails and brails. If you have a big meter mark, if you got some volume, once the boat stops on a slide, you may hit them with a scoop. But generally, even when we're commercial fishing, we're throwing ones on the corner. And then if you're commercial fishing with a rack, you're throwing a one on the corner. And then if a guy's pulling a fish out in the lift bowl here, then I'd hit one there, and then one back on the corner. And then if a guy pulls a fish out here on the lift bowl, I fill that one with a chovy and then one back on the corner. So it's not like we're throwing scoops and scoops. It's not like that. They'll feed up a lot quicker, and you can keep literally tonnage under the boat by chumming singles and just reading the water and feeding them accordingly. So it is different. So I feel it. I feel it, Phil. I think we're going to have them.
I love
More
it,
so with
Danny.
yeah.
Bunch of guys want to say hello before we get started. Isaac says, "Good evening, Phil and Danny." Isaac, always good to see a 540 Slingers Club. That is our friend Jeff Yeomans. Thank you for your service, Jeff. Great to see you here. Jabobo Tubbs, good evening, Phil and Danny. It's great to see you here. And Charles Zimmer, the president of the Redondo Rod and Gun Club. We had a great surf fishing tournament and banquet over at his place the other night. Chuck, great to see you. And Isaac sends us a $20 bill
Oh my
to
God!
start
Thank
out
you guys.
tonight, Danny.
Wow, what a
We're
start!
rolling in it, man.
Oh
Hey,
my God!
Isaac, thank you. Hey, Isaac and his son Ethan were just out. Ethan, his son, caught, correct me if I'm right or wrong, I think it was an 80-pound bluefin at night in less than 5 minutes. He's 8 years old. How do you like that?
Oh, killer! Yeah, killer!
How do you like that?
Unbelievable! That's awesome.
Congratulations,
That's
Ethan.
awesome. Yeah.
Jason Lawler, who is the cook on board the Amigo. Cook, chef, pardon me, Jason. I don't want you mad at me. He's a great guy. He's the life of the party, Danny. Loves your show, and he's here with us here this evening. Maybe Jason I don't know if you got a trip tonight or not, but if you do, poke your head in here. You can sit down with Danny for a while and talk about what you guys have been seeing. They had 11 yellowtail at Clemente the other day on the Amigo. The Freedom had 30 yellowtail. There was some good bites over there. Really excellent fishing.
That's great.
Sounds like it's
That's
starting to
awesome.
come on. Steve Bermuda says hi. Peter Cepeda, there was Opah 3 years ago mixed with yellowtail under the kelps. So there you are.
Okay.
Steve Bermudez, why is it? Here comes your first question. Why is it you fish rock cod north of Point Conception? They use a cannonball weight, but in Southern California, they use a torpedo weight. Which is better? Good question.
You know, we used to use sash weights.
Yeah, I
Or
remember
commercial
that.
fish.
Out of the
Yeah.
windows, right? You get them out of
Yeah. And stacks, well, they were inexpensive. We wire the bottom, and a lot of times we'd have breakaways, but we were fishing a lot of 15 to 25 hooks, and we used to commercial fish in the off season too. So
Is there a difference between the cannonball and the torpedo? Do you have a preference or not?
I like the sash weights because they're long.
Yeah.
And you can hang them up, but there's a less tendency for a cannonball. It's smaller and it's massive. It goes down and goes into a rock. You know, chances with a bar that's that long, that's heavy, yeah, you didn't lose many of those because of the configuration. It was a long bar. It was probably about an inch and a half, inch to inch and a half thick, but it went down really well. And it just, when it hit the bottom, you wind it up a little bit, but it would bounce around, and it could hit the rocks. Well, if you have a cannonball, unless you have something above it, you're going to have mono tied to the cannonball or Dacron. Anyway, it's going to fray a lot easier. You're shielded with a sash weight that's long. You got a lot of that, the metal that's hitting the rock, as opposed to, if a cannonball's small and your line's tied right on top of that small cannonball, which is a few inches in diameter.
Yeah.
Chances that the rocks could also shear your line that way too. So that was another reason why we implemented that.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Jason Lawler is not going to be here tonight. Tomorrow they have a 2-day trip. I'll be here in the morning picking up some ton of medical supplies that gentleman's going to bring down, and then I'm going to get down to the Red Cross in Tecate, Baja California.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
thanks
awesome.
to all of you
That's
for
cool.
helping.
That is so cool.
We reach our hands across the border, and Danny, it's
Unbelievable.
because of all these great people and you and
Yeah,
everybody
I know,
else.
absolutely.
Peter
Absolutely, that's
Cepeda says, how do you guys think the auto fission is going to be this year compared to last year's?
true. The auto fishing.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, the auto fishing. It's probably fishing.
The auto fishing.
Peter, help us
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
Yellowtail fishing, maybe.
Oh,
How do you think the yellowtail fishing is going to be this year?
it's
Maybe.
hard to say, but they've been getting a lot of the smaller yellowtail in the count right now with those fish.
Yeah, they are on the
Yeah.
kelps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be just a matter of time before maybe the bigger stuff's moving up the.
Yeah, and Peter, like I said, we had a good go around out here at
Yeah.
the Clemente with some good yellows on the Freedom, 30. The Amigo at 11, I believe. There's a yacht out of Davies Locker called the Blackfish. They had 29 fish, so there's.
Well,
been
what
some-
size were those, Phil?
there were some small fish.
Yeah.
Like I saw Jeff out there on the Thunderbird showing a fish that looked like it was 5 pounds.
Hamachi.
The ones they were holding up,
Yeah.
on the stern of the Freedom, they had a group photo. I mean,
Legit.
just me looking, it looked like 8 to 15, maybe a little bigger than that in some cases.
cool.
So
They're legit. Yeah.
maybe I'm nuts, but that's what it looked like to me. So
Yeah.
hopefully we're going to see
Cool.
more and more of that. And
Absolutely.
I want to get to some of these questions, but my God,
Absolutely.
Danny, the halibut fishing this year. The Aloha
I've
Spirit
seen
had
some of
40
those.
halibut yesterday.
seen some
up there out of Cisco's in
Yes,
Oxnard.
unbelievable.
Wow.
The flats used to be like that.
I know. God Almighty, it
looks
has
like it's
been
back.
Really, really good. Isaac wants to know what your thought is. Here's another thing that happened the other day. There was a yellowfin tuna caught.
Yes, I
So
saw that.
He's asking the question, what does that say about our Albacore season? And it's just an aberrational thing, I think, right? I don't think you're going to
That
see any
is
more.
an oddball, but I
Yeah.
don't know how that guy got into that mix. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
He shouldn't
I
be in
can't
that cool
explain
water,
that.
right?
No,
No. But
yeah,
if-
I don't know. There's like that. What was that cartoon, Nemo?
Yeah.
He just wandered off and got into a different bunch of guys. But I can't explain it.
That's as good an explanation as I've heard.
Yeah, yeah.
Blue skies, why do people put hooks on the top of their knife jigs and one on the bottom?
I think it just gives the knife jigs that I have are like this. I fished I represented the first company that brought those things in, and that was a long time ago. It was River to Sea, and nobody knew what that was, at the time, and nobody embraced it and bought into it. I did give some, like I had a real long, big one. I think it was probably about a 400 gram or something like
Yeah.
that, but it was long. It was about this long, and I gave one to Tanaka, Taka's tackle. Taka took it down, and he's got some big yellowfin on that. You know, he implemented on that long before anybody, before it started coming back, and we started seeing it, recent years. Those knife jigs and those jigs from Japan and everything have been much more effective now. But I mean, it started a long time ago, and only a few embraced it. I mean, I used it for a couple things, but that, not like we are now.
Right, exactly. All right, let's see. AK the Sack. Yes, Phil, it was an 80-pounder, but Ethan reeled in all the bluefin, a 90-pounder, a 50-pounder, and one yellowtail.
Wow.
8-year-old boy. Do you think he'll
Hey.
ever forget that night with his
No,
father,
no,
Isaac?
and you know what? He's just going to get better.
Yeah, right?
He'll be hooking handed to Pop here pretty soon.
How
Yeah,
do you like that, Isaac? I know what kind of father Isaac is, and he would love that.
I know. We all would.
Yeah.
That's when you've done well with him.
It's why we do it, right?
And it keeps the kid. I mean, come on, how good is that to have that relationship with your kids? It doesn't get any better. It's
Right,
like I had with
and to promote not being on your phone and looking at garbage on
Absolutely.
TikTok like Freedman Adventures.
Absolutely.
I mean, anything but Freedman Adventures. Excuse me. I mean,
it's true.
Being out in the outdoors,
It's true.
There's a lot of academic doors, I believe, that get open by being out on the water. Like, what is that fish and where did it come from? I'm going to go home and figure it out. There's all kinds of benefits.
And it's funny, it was when I'm doing this thing with San Pedro High and I want to get that fishing club instituted and, the captain school and whole deal. One of the kids that was there, he's now working on the boat. And I can tell you, David, this big kid, David, he's going to be a good one. And I'm sure one day he'll be a skipper once he gets his time and sits down and takes the test. And because his love for fishing, I mean, it just reminded me of myself, but now he's working on a boat, and it'll just escalate. And I'm sure, he'll get from there. He'll go to overnight fishing, multi-day fishing, and eventually, long range, But, you can see that this is where, folks, if you love what you're doing, it's not work. That's all I can tell you.
Kind of like doing Freedman Adventures.
You know what?
Right?
That's exactly it. This
I
is
know.
it. We live this.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And thanks for all the great work you're doing motivating kids to get out on the water. Danny.
That's where
great
it's
stuff.
at. That's where it's at. You got to pay it back. You really do. I've been blessed, and I want to make sure I pay it back.
Peter Cepeda's back. He said the Pride has 25 yellows to 37 pounds today at San Clemente Island. Doesn't surprise me one bit.
Ooh.
Hey, I wonder if they're on a day and a half trip or what they're on. If they're not, they'll come in here while we're sitting here. And
Oh, that'd be
we'll
awesome.
grab Sean and drag him in here.
Absolutely.
Put a
Those are units,
Those
man.
are nice fish.
Let me tell you.
Now I'm starting to think those fish I saw him hold up in the stern of the Freedom were bigger than what I just said because they look big.
Yeah,
But other guys
yeah.
were saying, oh, no,
Yeah.
they look like 12 to 18 pound fish
yeah.
and maybe bigger than that. And the Pride on some really big fish. Talk about
awesome.
a great guy, Albert Ponce. Love you, Albert Crystal Kids.
Yes.
How are
Awesome.
you doing? I hope you guys are doing good. Phil and Danny, along with the Freedman Adventure family, he's saying hello to us all. Scott Buchert is on here. First of all, we should thank Scott for a lovely meal tonight.
Absolutely, Scott. That hit the spot. I'm glad you sent those over.
Man, Scott,
was
thank you.
Yes.
Scott Buchert sent over some food for Danny and I tonight. And are you still hungry? Should I ask
No,
people to
man,
send more food, or is that good?
We're good.
Yeah, got to watch our waistlines, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're really concerned with that.
Scott wants to know, are the Albacore coming? And we've answered it, but let's answer it again since we sent food
I
over.
believe they are. That's my feeling. I'm just seeing some of the conditions. Like I say, just generally speaking, I saw somebody mention, they've got some of the Opah under kelps and places like that. But in the past, I can remember seeing the first Opah. This is back in the late '60s. We didn't know what it was, and I happened to be on the Champ, and a guy named Terry Mercer got it. And I think that's the one that's still hanging at the H&M in the in the office at H&M Landing. And we had no idea what that was. It was so weird. But it was during an albacore bite, and then we would consequently, guys would get them on the slide and this and that at different times. But with any frequency. I've never seen it at any other fishery other than, with our albacore fishing.
Greg Bates is saying, and Greg Bates is a great guy. He does so much for us here at Freeman
Yeah.
Adventures. Greg, thank you for all you do to make Freeman Adventures numero uno. He says, and I think he's referring to that yellowfin tuna, it tells you that fish can acclimate more than we thought. We learn something new every year. Perhaps.
Well, you,
Although
you
I don't think you're going to see 500,000 yellowfin tuna in 63-degree water.
probably not. But it does tell you that people talk about you're so sensitive about water temperatures being too cold, to this. Well, let me tell you something. When the albies put their noses in the mud, the surface temp might be in 60 something degrees. What do you think it is down a couple hundred feet, several hundred
Oh,
feet?
it's colder, right?
It's very cold.
Yeah, right.
So if you think that, and they're one of them that will go below the thermocline, like the yellowfin and a lot of bluefin. That's what made them susceptible to being caught in purse seines, because they hit that thermocline, they stop. So when they wrap them, the nets only have to go down so far, and once they hit the thermocline, they bounce back up and they trap. Albacore don't do that. You could wrap them with the net, and they will shoot below that thermocline, and so that's why you don't see albacore purse seined. It's all done through the lift poling, through the rod, the lift poling, hook and line, So yeah, it's a lot different. Or jigging.
Steve Bermudez, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Northern California reduced the limits of halibut. Greg Bates says 3 to 2. They're talking about up there. Ours is still 5 down here, right, guys? Somebody has different info on that, let me know. But I think we're still 5. The California Dawn, I looked at them yesterday. Limits of halibut, that was 2 per rod up there out of San Francisco, and limits of stripers. And
Oh, that's
Danny,
unbelievable fishing.
when those halibut are laid out on the deck, it's an amazing
Yeah,
sight.
yeah, that's great fishing.
Talked to the guy on the California Dawn, and he invited us up there actually to come up. We got to go up there and shoot a video and have some fun with those guys.
Let's do it.
California
What do we do?
Dawn.
This summer? Do it more this summertime?
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah,
We'll
perfect.
see.
That'd
San
be awesome. That'd be
Francisco,
a
everybody.
Great trip. That'd be a great trip.
Go up there and see those guys. Peter Cepeda. No, I was on the Freedom. They were all 23 to 32 pound yellows. Peter Cepeda speaking reason. Finally, we get clarification. Peter, I was saying that, but I one thing I hate to do when I do the morning briefing or my career of doing fish reporting, if somebody on a boat tells me they're 18 to 25, I say they're 12 to 20. I don't want somebody to walk on the boat and catch one. And most of the time, these guys do add a pound or two. But here I'm subtracting pounds, and Peter's keeping me honest. Peter, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Dan Smith. Hello, Captain Danny and Phil. We love you, Dan. We wish you, all the fine folks watching, all the very best. We are on our way to the boat. We'll watch the replay. Hookah. He's going to watch the replay. Dan, say hi to Kim. Give her a big hug and tell her to have an extra dose of butter and bacon for me. She's on the carnivore diet.
Cool.
Charles Zimmer, how does an Opah taste?
Opa's are delicious, Chuck. Absolutely delicious. There's not a lot of yield on it. As big as they are, the way they're configured, the bones and everything, the meat section is not as big as you would think. It doesn't go the whole length. It's very strange. Once you cut it and follow the backbone and go down the spine, there's not near as much the yield on it that you would think. But it's very good. It's excellent.
You can get it in a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, you can. It's excellent.
I don't know why Chuck's asking. He hates fish. He does. He won't eat fish. Which works out good for me because every time I walk into the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, hey, you want some fish? And I'm like, heck yeah. Thank you. Daniel Leanos. Danny, would you use a Thorium 40 on tuna in the 60 to 80 pound class?
Well, sure. I'm sure that reel's plenty adequate. I got to tell you, I used a tiny little Accurate on our Freedom trip.
Yeah, you did.
Tiny Accurate 500, but it had a 2-speed, and I had it loaded with 30. And we never hooked any. I never hooked any small fish. And then they wouldn't eat 40. I wish they could have eaten 40. We could have done a number on them, but they'd only eat the 30, and they handled that 60 to 100 pound fish. Took a little bit, but it was plenty adequate. So the Thorium 40 would do that. Of course, I had a 2-speed on too. It was a small 2-speed 500.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Dan Smith wished everybody his very, very best. Isaac is back. Isaac, good to see you. Any thoughts on a call El Nino on news reports? They say we're going to have a very hot summer. I think Isaac is asking, will that automatically cancel our Albacore run?
No, not necessarily. You know, I mean, we don't have the crystal ball. There's only somebody that really knows what's going on. And, you know, we just go by what Mother Nature gives us, and we just roll with that, you know. So whether it's an El Nino or whether it's cold water, I mean, either way, we're going to have pretty good fishing. We already have good fishing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could only get better, you know.
You know,
But
something that's not being talked about a lot, but there is humongous sea bass being taken at Catalina right now.
That's-
The Dreamer had limits. He had 30 to 60 pound fish.
yeah, see, that's another one.
Some other guys
It's
are on
phenomenal
this.
fishing. Between the
Yes.
halibut, the sea bass. Oh,
This sea
that's
bass thing is a
unbelievable.
long way from over. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hitting its stride.
Unbelievable.
And,
you know.
and it's going to go to 3 per rod, and it's going to be one of the best
Yeah.
sea bass years on record.
You know,
I'm thinking.
good chance that you'll be fishing mackerel like this for 'em,
Yeah.
which would really be a blast.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Danny, all season long,
Yeah.
all winter, I was making the point along with you that all that market squid that we had at our islands, that we had on our coast, and then China quit buying it, so it kind of left it unmolested, was a giant magnet for predators like white sea bass. And we're seeing that play out now.
Well, come on, Phil. Even on the Outer Banks, what do you think they're chomping at Tanner and Cortez? You know, they're getting a
Hey
tremendous
guys, how
amount.
are you?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry
No,
about that.
no,
Guys
no,
are
no.
coming in from the Native Sun. It looks
Oh,
like
cool,
they're doing
cool.
really, really good. So
Awesome.
I see some
Awesome.
really full
That's the
stacks
nice
out
part
there.
about being here.
Yeah, right?
We're right there in the heart of fish coming up. What do they got? You know, yeah.
And we leave
It's
our
cool.
door open so people can come in and
Exactly.
say hello. Even during the
Exactly.
show, we're kind of
That's beautiful.
casual about that.
Yep.
And Peter Cepeda said that was a good question about El Nino. Greg Bates, yes, it's in the northern region. That is the new halibut limit 2 per rod. Peter Cepeda, doesn't the Opah have like 4 different cuts of meat?
I think it is. You know, I'll be honest with you, Peter. I've never even cut one, so I don't know. You know, I've seen it, but I've seen some areas where it looked like there were some darker sections. You know, but yeah, I really don't know, to be honest with you.
How many, I'm going to tell you how many Opah, I'm going to guess. I've seen, in all the times I've been fishing, 4 caught. Maybe.
You know, the first one I saw this is back in the '60s on the Champ. A guy named Terry Mercer caught it.
Yeah.
It was in an on the slide.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
wow.
and I think it was with chrome sinker. But you know, Terry had that, and we all looked down. And we go, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah.
So it sat in the bottom of the bait tank, sitting there just glowing that pink, beautiful color. You know?
Yeah, gorgeous.
But it was the first one we've ever seen. But you know, now, yeah.
How many do you think you've seen? Maybe 4 is an exaggeration on my part.
No, I haven't even seen 4.
Yeah, I probably haven't
not
either.
being on the boat. No.
I'm starting to think,
Only
hey
a
guys,
couple,
how are
yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I watch your show all the time, and you are awesome.
This gentleman, you want to come in here and be on the show for a second? All right, hey,
This
thank
is
you.
great getting fishermen coming by.
Hey, thank you,
know?
so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I will contact you later about charter.
Please do.
I got your text.
All right, thank you.
Isn't that awesome? You guys coming off boats.
Take care now,
Nothing
guys.
gets
Come-
more real than that, Phil. You know.
guys that love our show. And Danny, we cannot say how much that means to both of us, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is our life, you know. Yeah,
It's so great.
absolutely.
Greg says good taste on the Opahs. That is true. Peter
Absolutely.
Cepeda. Freedom also caught yellow on kelp at Cortez on the day and a half trip. So yeah, there's fish on the kelps.
Oh,
First,
that's cool.
Am I right? It starts on the kelps and then they flood into the islands and then we have a good yellowtail year.
You know, it's usually a lot of that stuff would come up the line on the
Yeah.
tails. They come up from down below, and they're feeding all the way up. You know. But yeah, no, my gosh, it's going to be like, what do you guys want to go fish tomorrow? Sea bass? You want to go north, go get some halibut and sea bass maybe? You want to go fish yellowtail down below? Fish the bluefin? And hopefully we got the magic one coming. So keep your fingers on those albies, guys.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect
I think what's going to happen. I believe it will.
I
Just
do
by
too.
what I'm saying.
I do too. In a perfect world, Danny, we could have, I mean, first of all, let's just look at what's going on. Our water last year at this time, I had already knew we'd blown our albacore prediction because it warmed up too fast. It went from cold, and then
Yeah.
it got too hot,
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
early, and I
Yeah.
go, we're screwed. But
Yeah.
we've already made the prediction,
Yeah.
so we got to
Yeah.
stick by this. We can't
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, they're
This
calling-
year,
Yeah.
the water's way cooler. In fact, it's a little on the cool side in the 60-degree range.
Absolutely.
We're sitting perfectly right
Yeah.
now.
You know, I think, there's only one person that really knows, and we'll leave it to him.
Yeah,
but
really.
I'm just hoping, for the sake of the industry, because it's the one fish that the people come out of the woodwork for.
Yes.
I mean, you won't find an opening on any boat anywhere. It'll be jugged. Everything that floats will be out there chasing them.
That'd be nice for the industry.
Because it's an easy fish to catch. It's a great fish to break in children with, young kids. It's also going to get us back into teaching kids how to fly line a bait, which is truly an art. Fly line in the chovy and fly line in a bait. It's nice that you could throw a knife jig and this and that, but it's heavy. It's much easier. Getting the finesse and where your bait hits the water, puts its head down, just races off, and all of a sudden it just switches gears.
I know.
Yeah, it's a lot different, and it's the type of deal. Albacore, when we go into them, it's mayhem. Usually, when they bite, it's everybody's bent.
I got to thank the bluefin tuna this year because a lot of them are out to the west, and that's where you might expect those albies to show up first.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of coverage
yeah.
out that
It's
way.
gonna be like that. Plus, there's a commercial fleet outside
Yeah.
that too, out to the
Yeah.
west. So.
What do you know about that? Can you share anything with people?
You know,
How far the fish
I
are?
haven't kept up.
Yeah.
I know that last I heard, it's a little offshore, but it's not out of range.
Right.
It's not out of range, especially. I mean, those skinks, they can literally kick their tails right into the area within a day or two.
Yeah, well, you think about it. Fish, those things can swim way faster than 4 knots an hour.
Oh, yeah.
If they
Yeah.
swim 4 knots an hour, they
Yeah.
move 100 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overnight, a
Yeah.
12-hour period,
Yeah.
they can move 80 miles.
Yeah.
No
And if-
problem.
Yep.
And they do it all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're always constantly
Yep.
on the move, it
Yep.
seems like.
Yep.
In fact, you would be able to talk about this better than anybody. Sometimes if you saw that those fish were making a move every day, you wouldn't point your bow when you're leaving Point Loma toward where you caught them that day. You'd point them to where kind of you thought they were going to be and then work back down
Yeah,
toward it or
or
something.
with a lot of us that were fortunate enough to have code boats.
Yeah.
Some of the
Spread
commercial bait boats and stuff were down there. Yeah, we had some inside information on a lot of that, so that helped.
Good stuff, man. Steve Bermudez, so if they reduce the limits halfway through the year, does that mean you get a discount on your fishing license next year?
You would hope so, but that's not how our state works.
They're not giving the money back, Steve.
Yeah.
What are you, dreaming? Greg Bates says Santa Monica Seafood has Opah. Charles Zimmer, the president of the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, says we should head north on the Apollo trip looking for albies. We have a 2-day trip on the Apollo. On Wednesday, Chuck, people would absolutely kill me if we went out and trolled for albacore for 2 days and caught nothing.
Yeah, no, you got to put something in the sacks first, Jack.
After
Go
we
get
limit
them
out
a
on
couple tuna. Yeah.
we limit out on sea bass, bluefin, tuna,
There you go.
yellowtail.
There you go.
Then we'll go on
Yeah.
a flyer and see
Yeah,
what
if
we
you
can
have,
do.
you may have a little bit of room to put some albies in there. Yeah.
But I like the way you're thinking there, Charles. Greg says, read the text above. Good taste. I did read it, didn't I? What are you talking about? Isaac, any chance of a Wahoo in local waters? My buddy hooked one back in 2011 on the Tribute. Of course there's a chance, but not in this cold water.
Not in this cold water, but I got to tell you, that was probably the most amazing thing I've ever had
too.
in my life.
Yeah.
We had that 5.
Did you catch one out here?
We got 5 that one day
Oh.
on Junior's boat, a friend of mine, and we hooked a few more. You could have hooked more, but we were just on that 100-fathom curve. I was following that 100-fathom curve outside the rigs, and it was right there, and unbelievable. And now, Junior, Junior's boat, he says, God, let's go home. I go, Junior, I want to sink this boat with Wahoo. But we ended up going after 5 fish. But I guarantee you we could have caught more. Could have caught quite a few more.
Did you want to pinch yourself and say,
No, I wanted
this
to
really
pinch.
happening?
I wanted to pinch him. What are you? Where did we go? And we came back the week after. My brother, was on the outer limits, came back up, and he got one. With Junior, but that was the only one we got that day. But no, that day we could have loaded up pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there was times where we had all 3 jigs bit, marauders and stuff, And I had this one pack lure, a guy named Phil Murray used to have this company called Pack Lures. They're albacore feathers, but he made a big one where the head was almost a pound, and that thing got bit every time on the slide. It would sink out and it just got hammered. So it tells you a little bit, even when you're fishing down at the rocks or something for Wahoo, that jig also works there too. So, when everybody's throwing the same thing, a lot of times if you have something different like that, where it's heavy enough head, it's a feather, but it was black and red, and it just got hammered every time. So, a whole learning thing, but I never in a million years would have bet I caught Wahoo
Yeah,
10
I know.
miles from the stock.
So crazy.
Who would have
So
thought?
crazy.
Never would have. I would have lost that bet.
Makes the sport so interesting.
Yeah, it
doesn't
does.
it?
It does.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen, folks. We take whatever Mother Nature gives us, and we run with it every year, but we make the best of it.
But
great opportunities.
Allow me to dream for one moment. Cold water in the early part of the year, wide open Albacore. The El Nino flushes in warm water, and yellowfin dorado.
Got it all.
Wahoo, along with big blue marlin.
That's what I'm thinking of.
All
That's what I'll be
over the
dreaming about
ridge.
tonight. Yeah, with the Wahoo. Yeah, throw the Wahoo in.
I
while
can
we're at it.
dream, right? Halibut Man says Phil Friedman's the man. WYA today. What's WYA? I'm an idiot. Somebody help me.
I have no idea. Is this one of the kids' deals?
No, he's probably an older guy. I'm just a dummy. I don't.
WYA.
WYA.
Okay, I give up.
you-
Somebody else is going to have to
have to
decipher that
fill
for
dumb Phil
the
in
two
there.
old guys. Decipher it and then put it up on the board for us here.
Halibut Man, I love you. Thank you. Charles Emmer, Danny, my son Charlie, is heading out on a 2-day trip with me on the Pac V.
Pacific Voyager?
Yeah. What are some of the things that I should make sure to do to make it a memorable trip for him? One thing you should do, Chuck, talk to Isaac, who just had his son Ethan out there, an 8-year-old, but what should he do? And both these guys, Chuck and his son, they're great people. They're going to have a great time.
Chuck, how big? Charlie, I don't know. Did we see him at Santa Ana? Because we have to think
he
about
ran the whole thing.
Yeah.
He had the big trailer.
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean his son.
Yeah. Charlie was there.
Okay. Just for sure, try to make the rod match his size.
That's a good. Yeah.
You probably don't want it too long. You want to give him a little leverage, so you want probably a little shorter rod, and for him, probably concentrating and implementing the rail for sure. That'll make him much better, and give him something that's got a button on it too. That will also help his, landing ability to be able to compensate for the strength with having that button. You push it in and just turn the handle. Keeping him up in front.
If I can pay a compliment to Chuck, he's going to take great care of his son because he's
sure.
one heck of a good dad.
He sure is.
As
I agree.
As indicated by that's the question he asked. So you guys are going to have a great and memorable trip. You better have. I'll tell you what you better do. You better get some video of him catching the fish so I can memorialize it
There
for
you go.
Come on. Halibut Man. All right. Guess what that means? It means where are you at today? Where are you at today? Hey, we're at 22nd Street Landing, beautiful San Pedro. As the boats come in, people are coming by and telling Danny and I how much they love this show, and it makes it extra special, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It really
This
does.
was home for me for many, many years too, with the Mustang.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the native son, I haven't even talked to him, but I can see the sacks coming off of there. Full sacks
awesome.
of rockfish.
That's
It looked
awesome.
like it was a great trip for
Awesome.
them. So really happy to see that. So get out and catch some fish, folks. And there's yellowtail at Catalina, Clemente. There's a chance for halibut on the native son. They've had some great halibut fishing. Oh, that's Mitchell. Hey, Mitchell, you're number one. Good to see you. All right, Isaac's back. Chuck, just let the trip guide you. Keep it fun, the fishing slow. Keep Charlie interested. Ethan goes in the wheelhouse, helps the deckhands. It's about keeping him engaged. Yeah, and any kid, this sounds like drudgery to you and me. If some deckhand said, hey, grab a brush and starts grubbing, you'd look at him like, hey, jump overboard. You say that to an 8-year-old kid, and the kid is going to go, whoa, really?
I'm part of the crew.
Yeah. I belong to something bigger than me.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
We all want that, and it's great. Thanks, 22nd Street, for sponsoring the surf tournament. You guys rock. Man, that surf fishing tournament was fun, and the people that attended,
Oh, that's so
really
cool.
wonderful people.
Well, you know,
Mitchell, you were one of them, my friend.
that is so awesome. And you know, it's so accessible. No matter where you go, up and down our coast, you know, there's great surf fishing. Whether
Yeah.
you go north or south. It's
Exactly.
phenomenal. Right out in front here.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
gosh sakes. Anywhere, you know, it's really excellent.
This guy Mitchell, I mean, the smile that he had, the hugs, these big bear hugs, man. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Super good guy. His girlfriend, super nice. They both won in a category. I mean, those were the kind of people that are in this sport and are aficionados of the outdoors in general.
That's what makes the sport so wonderful, you know, the people. Yeah.
Chuck Zimmer says, I've got an MX Abbott for Charlie. Should I get a 6.5-foot rod, 20 to 40 pound?
Yeah, I would say that. Probably,
For the Kelpatty Yellows and stuff, or what?
yeah, for the lighter
Fly
stuff,
line.
I would say. You
Fly
know,
line during the
yeah,
daytime.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, very good. You know, sometimes this show goes in different direction. We're going to talk a little bit
That's
about
true.
Lake Cachuma, and we will. When
Oh
we
yeah,
get a chance
yeah,
to do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
How's it going,
Yeah,
guys?
Absolutely.
Cruise
Absolutely.
going by from the native sun again,
Awesome.
waving at you, Danny. I know you're busy.
Cool,
Well,
cool.
we're both busy doing this week. Never too busy to say hi to the guys. All right, Mitchell's back. Right back at you, brother. You put out my favorite fishing show and have all the right news. Thank you so much, Mitchell. How can you go wrong with a guy like Danny Cadota? He's got more knowledge in his pinky than I have in my whole body. So it's great to be with him. Fantastic. Tommy Tarr says the Malahini starts running trips June the 8th. Can't wait to see Bill again.
Oh,
Bill
my God,
Wilkerson.
yeah.
What a lovely guy.
Awesome. And his operations look unbelievable. We're gonna have to sneak down there one day.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
a trip on the horizon. You're invited,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
A day and a half trip. That is going to be August 15th, everybody. You're going to have to book with H&M Landing or on the Horizon website. But on August the 15th, we have a day and a half trip on Bill's new boat, the Horizon.
Oh my God.
And as Tommy says, the Malahini is just a real fun boat to fish on. Great bow for chucking the iron. It's really a lot of fun. And I'm thinking, you know, we've seen some awfully good fishing so far this year, but I just think as the water warms up, it's going to get better and better
Oh
and better.
yeah. It's gonna be unbelievable.
And some of this this halibut fishing, 40 halibut on the Aloha
the
Spirit
big white sea
yesterday.
bass.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you gonna? There's no end right now. I mean, come on. You go down. When have you got those odds on bluefin this time of year? We've never fished them this time of year for the most part.
Right.
You know, so we're way ahead of the curve, folks. And I think it's just going to get better because I think we're going to see those.
I'm not the only one crazy
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Danny
And I'm
is-
wishing, but I'm calculating it from what I'm seeing too. I think there's a really good shot at those things.
And on a total non-scientific observation, man, this overcast, gloomy June gloom weather is albacore weather, right?
But then and the other thing is we are seeing more and more chovies,
yes, definitely.
and so I think that's going to be one of the key.
Yeah, me too.
key things,
I absolutely
Yeah.
do. And they're seeing a lot down there, I hear, around the Ensenada area, Inner Bank,
Wow,
Wanda
gee,
Bank.
those are pretty the usual spots.
Yeah,
that
right?
We fished in those
Exactly.
years, yeah. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really good. Don't forget the morning briefing tomorrow morning with yours truly. We'll have all the very latest. I will stay up late tonight talking to the boats and seeing if they're getting bit and getting you in touch with the very latest. And with help from guys like you, I already know that the Pride had a really great trip. So we'll be talking about that. And who knows? I might even grab Sean and tie him up for a while and torture him and see where he was fishing today. See if he will let us know. All right, Isaac is back and says, Chuck, Ethan has been fishing when he turned 5. Just stay with him, hooked at hand, but he will surprise you. Ethan did he took to it like a duck to water. Kids do, right?
Yep. That's perfect.
How old were your kids when you started them?
I took her pretty young. Elise didn't like to fish, but Alexa, I took her with my brother on the Outer Limits, and on her first trip, she had an albie, a yellowfin, and a dorado. I mean,
Wow.
she just had a phenomenal year. And we got back to the car at Seaforth. My catalytic converter was gone, and
Oh,
we
my
ran
God.
from San Diego back to San Pedro uncorked. and she was going, oh, she was scared to death because of the noise it was making. I
Yeah.
said, Alexa, this is what we wanted our cars to sound
Yeah,
like when
when
we
we
were
were
kids,
kids.
right? And
Yeah.
she goes, oh, no, you didn't, Dad. I said, no, we did. We wanted to sound like this, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. But
Yeah, I remember Patrick. I had him on my shoulders when he was 2 on
yeah,
the Southern
yeah,
Cal.
yeah.
He caught an albacore when he was 4, sitting on the knee of Alan Girardi. I don't know if you knew Alan. He was a deckhand on the Searcher for many years. In this particular case, he was decking for Steve Thompson on the Tracer.
Oh, yeah.
And we
No,
were on the
no.
Tracer,
Yeah,
and Steve was a lovely guy,
yeah,
passed away.
yeah.
But he sat on his knee, and I told Alan, I said, don't torture him, but I want him to whine, not you. And Alan just sat there and said, whine, Patrick, whine, whine. Okay, give it a break. The fish pulling line. He'd tell Patrick to back up. Whine, whine, whine. You got a, not a big fish. I think
Yeah.
it was 18 or something, but pretty good for a 4-year-old kid.
Absolutely.
And he was stoked as heck. You know what was a funny thing that really not freaked me out, but my oldest son, Philip, who's a macho, he's 6'4", strong, big construction
yeah.
guy, played sports, played hard, Patrick too. He told me at some point in his life, I thought maybe he had some trauma that we'd never get over. He told me that, Dad, at one point, I used to look at the fish on the deck and feel so sorry for them when they were gasping for air. And I go, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, why didn't you tell me? I would have talked to you about it, or we could have discussed it.
Yeah,
And he goes, oh,
yeah.
I don't know, but I'm over it now. I'm
No,
good
wait, he
with it."
played hockey?
Yeah. He played a little hockey, played football mostly.
Okay, see, in both sports, you want to knock the wind out of them. You kidding? He's worried about that?
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
You want to knock their teeth out? See a little blood? Exactly. I thought it was weird. All right.
Oh, God.
Jeff Yeomans, Brian Wynn, and I are going to put together a more structured casting event in the near future. It would be more focused on tips and tricks to build up confidence in their casting ability. Jeff, all you got to do is let Danny and I know when it is, and if we can make it, we will make it, but we will certainly publicize it because, I love both you and Brian very, very much. I was
Cool.
talking to Brian today, so that should be fantastic. Jeff Fuchs says,
Yeah.
hi, Phil and Danny. Steve Bermudez, how do we get a schedule of Freeman Adventures charters? Just send me a text, 657 227 6459, and politely ask for me to send you a list of the charters. Well, you don't have to be polite. Send me a list of the charters, 657-227-6459. And tomorrow you will have a list of our remaining
That's
charters.
awesome.
We're almost sold out, everybody, but I've kept some open just for guys like Steve who haven't figured it out until this moment, since I mention it every morning on the morning
Cool,
briefing. Actually,
cool.
I don't. I'm just kidding, Steve. Thanks for asking. Isaac, Danny, how's the rods going? Want to put an order in?
Okay, that's a good question because I just talked to Brad today. He's got a lot of stuff in production. We're going to start moving forward with him. We sourced a different guide company, so we're now back in business. And apparently, he's got the graphite handles going. So you give us a call, let us know what you're looking at. I mean, I'm thinking about we're also got some prototypes coming in. We have 3 different actually, the 2 are the 80 and the 100s are the straight graphite railroads, and a 62. So we got some different stuff coming in that I'm going to probably be taking on my 8-day in June on the angler and smoke testing those things. But as far as what we have in production out, what we have, we're going to go forward. We finally sourced those guides, and the handles are coming through right now. So give us a call, at Semperfish, or call me directly on my line, and you can talk to me, and I will get you all squared away, and we'll see how quickly we put these together for you.
What
But
number? What is that number?
I'm going to give you my cell.
Okay.
It's 310-283-7954, and we'll talk about it because I could dial you in. I mean, there's been rods that Phil and I were talking about it today that, we implemented like on that. I used strictly on the freedom trip, and guys had said that was too light a rod. Guess what? It's not. It's a 30-pound rod, but it was doing all those nicer units, And that was the same rod that a friend of mine, Steve, you told me, took down to Bay of LA the year before, and we whacked the Cabrillo with it and yellows and stuff. And so this rod has been smoke tested. Just because it's light doesn't mean it doesn't recoil. It recoils quicker because it is straight graphite. and you just have to learn how to fish and take the power out of it by holding it down at that lower angle. That way it also assures that you're not going to break it, but it's also going to put on the fish quicker. And to me, that's what it's all about. You never get a shot at getting their head down if you're staying up with it, and just staying down on it with a quick stroke, and timing it, with the swell and the whole deal. They kick themselves right to the boat. So that's an important deal, is your technique, and particularly with straight graphite. You don't ever want to high stick those things. If you're a high sticker, I'm going to tell you right now, go get a glass rod, you know. But what you're losing is the performance and the quick recoil. So, if they never get a chance to get their head down, and you're short stroking and that thing is recoiling so much faster than a glass rod, every time they're kicking up, they're kicking at you, and all you got to do is keep up with the wind, So it's all about the technique, and the
Danny,
timing.
some people may not know what you're talking about when you say high sticking. What do you mean by that?
I think everything over 90 degrees, which is straight out from you, as you go up in here, this would be considered high stick.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me tell you something. When the rod's down here, and I'm going to give you on this 30-pound rod, I'll give you some actual numbers. It took 62 pounds of pressure to break this particular rod. Well, 62 pounds of pressure, people, it's going to pretty much take you off your feet. That's a lot. Okay. At 45 degrees, with the fish straight down, generates 45 pounds of pressure. At 90, so if you have it laying on the rail and sticking straight out here at 90 degrees, it goes down to 30-something degrees. It drops half the pressure from here to down here at 30. So if you ever watched us pull on fish, we're down here, we're pulling down low, because there's so much pressure. All you got to do is keep turning the handle. Every time they kick, if they kick and you're keeping up, they're kicking up at you. So that's going to shorten your fighting time, where the fish kicking at it. It's just a matter of you keeping up with that stroke. But if you start going up higher, and say you go to about 120 degrees, it drops off from 30 pounds to 12 pounds of pressure. Now, think about that. As you come up another 30 degrees, you end up with about 9 pounds of pressure. And then when you're at a high stick, which is straight up here, you got 6.2 pounds of pressure. This is also where you're going to blow the tip on the rod, because you're a super high stick, okay? But why would you fight a fish up here? At 6 pounds of pressure is what you're generating. When you got 62, you got 10 times more pressure down here. So when you see people high sticking, hopefully they have a fiberglass rod. And if you have a fiberglass rod, that also tells me you don't understand the concepts of the lifting and the timing, and if you want pure performance, you have to hang it out there, and you gotta implement that technique, and but once you get it, you watch the better guys, those fish will never get ahead. They'll get their head down, and every time they kick, they're going to be kicking at you. As long as that head's pointed up, angled up, and they kick, and you're keeping up with that stroke, they're going to keep coming. They're going to kick themselves right to you. When you're doing this, and it's going through the water like this, and it just so happens the head's pointed down, it kicks its tail. There goes your drag. Zzz, zzz. So you're not just stroking that thing where it's constantly kicking itself, and you're keeping up with it, and it just keeps kicking itself right to the surface. So it's a timing deal, and it takes practice, and it takes you got to pay attention. You got to utilize the swell and the rock of the boat to your advantage. Let the boat kill the fish for you.
Beautiful stuff. All
Okay.
right, Jeff Fuchs says, send me a list of your charters too. Jeff, send me a text, my friend, 657-227-6459. Isaac says, Danny, thank you so much for the number. He'll be giving you a call later. Steve
Yeah.
Bermuda says, pretty please, and you're the greatest. Steve, flattery will get you everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, and some of these guys, if they do come up on these trips that we're doing,
Yeah.
I will take you and show you exactly what we're talking about. We'll take you, and it will change your fishing. I guarantee your catch rate, your efficiency rate is going to be so much better, And it's putting everything together, between your line, your rod, your reel, your hooks, and everything. It's, and it's this process that it's got to go in your head, and it's like a computer. Phil can tell you, what I went through on that freedom trip, when you got 30 other captains, there's a little bit of pressure, you know, and your adjustments that you have to make with tackle. I had to end up changing my hooks three times to get the right hook because these fish are too big. I get bit on the lighter hooks, but I straightened the hooks on two of them, you know, on both that Gamakatsu, the light, which only weighs 350 milligrams,
Yeah, right.
But I mean, the first fish we saw were 20 pounds. Well, it handles albacore fish and everything beautiful. In fact, that's the hook I want to use when I'm fishing albacore, because it will get better with it. It'll get better, much better with an anchovy because it's super light. It's 350 milligrams. Where a number four mustad weighs about 450 milligrams. 100 milligrams, you and I can't feel it, but that I guarantee you that anchovy can. He swims differently with it, so it gives you an edge on catching those albies when you're putting them in a lower collar and they swim down and away. So it's all these little things that add up and make the difference in your score during the day. So and making the adjustments and changes, and I had to do that a lot on that trip. So your mind's constantly going; it doesn't stop. And you keep reassessing how the fish are biting during the day, and you have to change your techniques, your lines, your hooks, whatever it takes. But it's ongoing. Your mind's got to constantly be in gear all the time.
Excellent stuff. All right. Jeff Fuchs says he's learning a lot tonight. He also said Brian Wynn taught him some new ways to catch fish. I think right along what you're talking about too, Danny, and it works. Isaac says Ethan, his 8-year-old son, was reeling in those bluefin in on a United Composite Viper and Penvisic 16 with 100-pound line. He handled it like a champ. Wouldn't even let me help him. Crazy.
I love it.
That's when things
I
are
love
going
it.
right.
There you go.
I love it,
There's
Isaac.
the father and son team, right?
Man, that's great stuff. And I know
Doesn't
Chuck
get any
Zimmer.
better. Yep.
Hey, did you hear who won the raffle, the
No.
grand prize
No.
at the Redondo Rod and Gun Club? So Chuck Zimmer, the president, pulls
Yes.
the ticket and he goes, Phil Friedman, ha ha.
Who's that?
He goes, ha ha. And I go, oh, okay. And he's looking at the numbers on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then he reads 257 and nobody raises it. And my tickets I threw away, or I just I was busy. And he turns it over. He goes, it is. It was me. It's so funny. Oh my God. And I didn't give it
That's
back
funny.
to him either. I took it. Current Jam wants to know, would you recommend the same thing with a spinning rod? Keep it low? Same thing?
Any rod, it's going to be the same thing.
Because you're getting so much more pressure on it.
It's the pressure that you're going to get. The problem with the spinning rod is the line's on the bottom, right? So, I mean, depending on how, it's not like you could put it on the rail because your spinning reel drops below the level of the rod on the rail, right? So that means that the line's going to be rubbing on the rail. So that's what makes that tough, to implement and use that. Now, if you're holding it, you can get away with it, I just thought of one way you might be able to do that. If you're on a small boat and that Y thing that Joe Russo designed where you plug it in.
Yeah, I wish Joe would come on right now and put his phone number up there.
You can put that
Yeah.
line below that
Saw
chrome
that.
bar and it's smooth, so it's not going to braid it at all, and then wind with a spinning reel.
Yes.
So that's one way you could implement that.
Joe Russo, you should be watching this show and putting your phone number up there right
Yeah,
now.
where are you, Goomba?
Joe,
Come
come on. What's wrong with you? Darn.
All right, you missed an opportunity, Goomba.
I'll put your short up there again and give you another plug.
Yeah.
Blue Sky says, Danny, the number, one more time, your cell phone number.
Oh,
Slowly. That's what he said.
310-283-7954.
All right, there you have it. You can come back and listen to the show and get that number again.
There you go.
And Jeff Hughes says, Phil won. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I did. Halibut Man. That's Mitchell. I saw the video. Congrats, Ethan and Isaac. That was cool stuff, wasn't it, Mitchell? Yeah, I mean, it was good. And actually, there was a little bit of excitement in it because the video opens up, at least I edited it,
Yeah.
where the deckhand is tripping over the chain locker or up there in the anchor and goes, boom, you hear this crash. So I'm going, oh man, that's a great way to open a video. No one's going anywhere after watching that. And then it shows the whole battle with Ethan, Dad coaching him, deckhand captain of the boat, helping out. What boat was that? Man, we should be giving the boat a plug. What's wrong with you guys out there? What boat was that? I can't remember. But Ethan, or not Ethan, Isaac will
Cool.
put it up there in a second. We should be giving those guys a plug because you said that Captain Jason, I think it was, did such a fantastic job. So thank you so much, Mitchell. Cue ball yesterday at the Cortez, the Mossbacks were eating it all. Iron, fly line, dropper, loop. It was hard to pick which way you wanted to do. Mean ass fish, man. Those fish. Cue ball's
Wow,
right.
that is so
Cortez is loading up
That
with those
is
big
so
yellows.
cool. Like,
I
I mean,
heard
this
that.
fishing is going to be unbelievable. This
Yeah.
could be, I mean, just it's epic already,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, you're at Cortez doing that. That means you're in the same area catching bluefin.
Yes.
You can go top off. You could do all this in a day and a half, 2 day trip, possibly,
God.
right? I mean, doesn't get any better than that,
It
folks.
does not.
Get out there.
Yes.
Get on a boat.
Go fishing.
It's happening.
Enjoy this.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, I hate to go back to it again, but that's a perfect spot for Albies to show up.
Oh,
out that way.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're going to come past. They're going to, I mean, usually the happy hunting grounds out there, you get them on the butterfly, the mushroom, and, all those banks there too. But I mean, they're going to be wherever the bait is, and if you don't think that albacore don't like squid, they do.
Yeah, they
So,
do.
I mean, every fish, it's
They
candy.
all love
That's why
it.
we call it candy.
Yes, exactly. Jack Sepulveda is one heck of a nice guy. He was at one of Jeff Yeoman's casting seminars, and I got to hang with Jack. He's a great guy. Always good to see him. Let me jump over here because we're getting so many questions now, Danny.
Yeah.
That I got to back this
Okay.
thing down. Jack says, Danny or Phil, great show. What is the date of the show that you are fighting the tuna on the Freedom? The date, I'm not sure, but I think if you search, Jack, I'll put it up on my Facebook page tomorrow. But if you search, what do we call that?
What
We
did you call
it
the Legends strip? or
Yeah,
something?
Legends of sport fishing.
Yeah, it's not so much legends. It's a bunch of old farts.
Yeah, yeah, but
We ran boats.
we made it sound better than it actually was. Old
And we had a good time.
Old farts on the Freedom didn't have the same ring.
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, right, right.
Legends on the Freedom. Jack, if you go in and search on our YouTube channel, which is a mess, I've got to straighten it out. I apologize, everybody. I've got to get that all cleaned up. But if you go in there and you type in Legends on Board the Freedom, I think it'll pop up for you and you'll be able to watch it. You'll have a really good time watching it. And you'll see Danny put on a clinic, man. I mean, he really did great. Jeff Fuchs, side pull the rod pointed to the fish. Do you side pull the rod?
No, I keep. You know what? Just old habit. I keep it straight up and down over the fish, but I do angle it down. And this is one area where being short, you actually have an advantage because I don't have to. The big guys have to really bend over and get their back down there to get it on the rail. For me, and you'll see it if you look on that legend strip on the Freedom. Being short was an advantage because I could keep that rod on the rail.
You short? What are you talking about?
Yeah. At that angle, it's just perfect. And it's giving me, I would say I was probably getting between probably about 40, minimum about 45 pounds of pressure on that, at most of the time, be at that angle. So
Perfect.
that's what you want, that angle.
Greg Bates says, hi, Jeff. Each one of the trips is the best of the test. Each one is top of the line, boat crew, and most of all, the people. If there's an opening, you better grab it quick. We have managed to get a lot of great people on there like Danny Cadota, Job, Bobo, Tubbs. Thanks so much, Danny, for explaining the keep it low situation. Really helpful. Cue ball, rectum, big yellows. He was out on Cortez, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
That's awesome.
Cue ball, because that is one of my. I
Love
don't know
them.
about you, Danny. It's magical out there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love fishing
yeah,
the Cortez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those big yellows are so much
Absolutely.
fun. Tommy Tar says, freelance 3/4 day boats out of Newport Harbor found kelps full of yellowtail, but the fish had lockjaw. Ooh, 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 ooh. That Forky's getting up here. Those boys in San Diego are talking the same thing.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of yellows
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
Most of the days, they're
Yeah.
pretty lockjawed up.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they'll get a good hit. Here we go, man. We're going to have
Yeah.
Forky's on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
kelps right
Yeah.
here.
And
This
and
is
you know
going to
what?
be one hell of a season.
If they have the candy, they'll eat it. I'm sure they're not going to ever bypass that. I don't think. If they have a shot at getting the squirts. I've never seen a yellow that passed the squid up in my
No.
life. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Israel de la Cruz. At least Israel's paying attention. He knows that the boat that Ethan and Isaac were on was the Highliner.
Oh,
Thank
there
you,
you go.
Israel.
There you go.
Excuse me. Really appreciate it, man. I wish I were paying more attention to my own show. Cue Ball loves the Cortez Bank, man. There's nothing not to like. Dave Clark, searchers on a 3-day and headed to Cortez this morning after chasing bluefin tuna for 2 nights. Did he get them, Dave, on the bluefin? I haven't heard from the searcher, so let me know if he got them or he's just heading out there for something new to do or he didn't catch any and he's going out there. Cue Ball said they had squid when they were fishing Cortez Bank. So good stuff, man. Current Jam, man, so much intel coming from our people.
That's awesome.
We love you
This
guys,
is
man.
perfect.
Thank you.
This is why you listen to the show, because it determines where you're going to fish this
Yeah.
weekend. That's why, Phil and I talked before we even started the show, and I thought Thursday night, by Friday, you may be on the road and on your way to San Diego or wherever it might be, destination on a boat down here that's going out there, but it gives you at least a day to prepare. That's why Thursday. You're getting your intel tonight, gives you a chance to get into the tackle shop tomorrow, quick, get your stuff, and then say la vie, hop on a boat.
And so many of the people that are part of this, I'm talking about the people who are watching the show, contribute such great information.
Oh,
man.
absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Love it. Current Jam, I was out in La Jolla last weekend and I ran into so much life, dolphins, seals, birds, but I didn't mark any fish. Do you think it's worth staying around that area if I find it again? So he didn't see any fish, but if he sees all that life, should he hang out there?
If it's got, that's a good sign. That's a great sign.
Hard to
And it
drive
could-
away from
And
that.
it could be time of day. You probably going to have to make sure you have the right bait.
Yeah.
That's going to work, I mean, and that area, a lot of times, we used to get our squid a lot of times in La Jolla Canyon and through there, up the line. There's a few places that we make squid, or a lot of times back in the old days, we'd have to run down to Mexico to go get it down just above, what was it called? Not Todos
Salsipuedes?
Santos, but just south of Salsipuedes. But as you turn the corner,
Yeah.
God, why am I drawing a blank?
Me too.
As you turn the corner into Ensenada,
Yeah.
it was right on the corner there.
Like
But
University Point or?
Oh, God. It'll come to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'd run down there, make our squid, and then shoot back, go pick
Pescadero?
up our berry. Pescadero.
Was it? Yeah.
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 Yep.
Love it. I
Yeah,
remember sitting on the anchor at Salsipuedes one night, and it was a miserable night. We were on the Big Game 90, or Grisbeck, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
We're sitting out on the deck, just sitting there, and I could hear the Mexicans singing and see the campfire. Oh, smell the carne asada, and I'm thinking, how the hell can I get on that beach right now?
I'm going to go get dinner. See ya.
I was trying to think of any way I could do it. Isaac says, yes, it was the Highliner. His buddy Jason used to own the Pride, but he bought the Pacific Islander, which was renamed the Highliner this year. And Isaac loves fishing with him. It's out of C4 Sport Fishing in San Diego. Cue Ball, it's jumping off. Get the heck out there, guys. Fishing is good right now, man. There is some really good stuff. It's only going to get better.
Oh, yeah, it's only getting better.
Yeah.
And it's May, folks. It's May. Come on. And it's been going on for a while, too. So, yeah.
Cue Ball, this is our community, my culture. Yeah, I mean, he's sharing all this great information, and he feels like this is a family, and that's the kind of people we want around us
Yep.
here, man.
Yep.
Really, really appreciate it. Rick Slater, how do you catch an Opah? Just a freak catch, tuna fishing, or can they be targeted?
I've seen the guys that in the old days we'd do a drop back for Albacore using a chrome torpedo.
Yeah.
And then putting in,
Yep.
2.5, 3 foot, with the chovy back behind it.
Nose hook.
And it bombed down a little bit deeper. And that seemed to be, to me, at that point, probably the key for most of the ones that I've seen caught. We're down a little ways, But, I'm not an expert on Opah.
Well, who is?
We just don't see enough of them.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But I know that one was caught deep,
I wonder if
Deeper.
you yo-yoed an iron if you'd catch
It could be. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
right.
know they like the bait, and I know that one that was that's mounted up in HM Landing was caught on a chovy. That's that way. That's all we had then. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason Lawler. He says, oh, wait a minute. I think I skipped over one. Yeah, Isaac got the same crew from the Pride They are top-notch crew, highly recommended. That's the Highliner, Seaforth Sport Fishing, everybody. If it comes from Isaac, you can take it to the bank. Jason Lawler, who's the chef on board the Amigo, says, with everybody giving info out here tonight, I don't get in trouble for giving out fresh info. LOL, yeah. You know, I don't give locations that much when I do the morning briefing because I don't want to betray
You don't
my
want
sport fishing
you don't want
guys.
every little pot running out
You know,
and running over us.
yeah,
but you
and-
know, I think that the advantage we have is you are going to get a professional crew. Number one,
Yes.
you're going to have plenty of ammunition.
Yes.
You've got all the processing stuff, for once they'll bleed it and they'll put it down in the fish hole, the refrigerated fish holes. There's so many different things that advantages you have. Just the knowledge and the communication between the other boats in the fleets and their code boats. So you're going to be, yeah, you can get, and we used to call them. I don't want to be too disrespectful, but there are guys that would just follow us boats around, and we called them fiber flies. But not that.
That's funny.
Because generally the guys, if they knew how to fish, they would go look for their own fish rather than just camp up upswell. As you're making your drift and your stop. That doesn't impress me with fishing knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing you get on a sport boat is you get a chef like Jason preparing culinary masterpieces.
Exactly. Now that works. You sit down, you can relax and have a real meal.
I'm telling you, man, you should jump on the Amigo with Jason. Make sure you say hi for all of us. Of course, Jason and I did a lot of cooking videos together. He's a dear friend of mine, and I hope you can get out on the Amigo with him really, really soon. Cue ball, every Opah I've seen caught was in deeper water. Yeah, right?
That's what I
Makes
yeah,
sense.
that's what I've seen.
Yeah, Greg Bates. Danny, are we not short? Danny, we are not short. We're fun sized.
Yeah, well, okay, good. Good. I'll keep that
I
one
guess
in mind.
Greg, it's a weird thing with me. I don't know why I don't look at people's height. Like somebody will say to me, and how tall is so and so? And I'll go, God, I don't know. There was somebody the other day that I looked at and I go, God, you're tall, man. I don't know why I don't pay attention.
Well, you're standing next to Brian Shaw, maybe. Or
Yeah,
something,
maybe, right? Yeah, Shaq O'Neal, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Rocket Dog. He says, hello, Danny, Phil, and family. Rocket Dog,
Yeah,
it is
hello.
always good to see you here. Hey, I'll remind you all, tomorrow morning's the morning briefing, and if you don't want Danny and I to break into tears tonight, you don't want to see two grown men cry, hit that like button. Come on, you guys, when
There
you
you
hit that like
go.
button. And if you really wanted to see a smile on Danny and my face, you'd hit the share button and share the live show with a friend or an enemy. We really don't care.
Phil,
Share
I
with
brought and this is filled of notes and things that I planned down maybe to do future shows
Yeah.
and everything. I got these. It's crazy. But one of the things I did last week was go bass fishing with a friend, Rob.
I was
Cotto.
just going to bring that up. Good job.
And we were up at Lake Cachuma, and I cut my teeth there when I was in high school. So that was 50 some odd years ago, and it's where I started. And we wanted to be, I guess, it was really before a lot of the tournaments started. But we were fishing with Albacore's, fiberglass rods, throwing crankbaits. We made our own spinner baits, fishing the plastics, doing everything the way, I guess you would say a tournament bass guy was doing it now. I think I would have opted to go into that area if the money was like it is now. I'm seeing these guys making millions and stuff, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
oh my God, it's unbelievable. But we learned so much even from that, and I gotta credit our guys in Southern Cal. They've always been on top of stuff. If we had our Southern California tournament fishermen had the opportunity to fish these big tournaments that they have, the BASs back there, down in the south and southeast, a lot of those guys that went out there back, like when Aaron Martin's first down there, and he used to be on my pro staff at Jolla, those guys went back there and kicked butt. It's because we have a different mentality. We fish lighter lines. We're fishing subtler baits. These guys were all fishing 15. We're fishing 8 and 10, and we're catching bigger. And then we implemented that into catching these real big fish too. And that's what it was fun because it was very competitive amongst a lot of our saltwater captains that fish bass, on our days off. But even through that, through the technology with electronics and everything, Phil, it gave us, we had definitely had a big edge over the most of them. We understood currents. Nobody even knew there was any current because they didn't hold constant with two anchors out. So when you're doing that, you can assess which way the current's going, and by that, then you can position your boat with the in respect to the structure that you have. So the bait, when you're throwing it out there and the current's taking it, it hits that particular spot, into a feeding area that they're feeding on. So there's a lot more science involved, and I think a lot of it was crossover from having the background on ocean boats. And I would tell the guys, I says, do you think that you just go out to Cortez Bank, plop the anchor in the middle of the bank, and the fish come to you? No, you got to be on the leading edge. You have to understand where the current's coming from and anchor in respect to it on different sections of the bank, depending on where the current's coming in and everything. So, it's implementing that and utilizing it on the lakes that gave us an edge. And then when it came to electronics, I look back and I'll be on a Saturday morning. Sometimes I'm watching these bass shows and they have these live scan where these things are scanning in front of them. Well, heck, this is 2023. you know, we were implementing that. George Mayo really was the first one, that got it. And being my code boat, I think we mentioned this before. We went down to San Diego without telling anybody, but we had the first two Westmars, the color Westmars, and we smoked everybody. But if you think about it, yeah, when you're scanning out a quarter mile, when everybody has to straight line and troll, and look at on your meter where you're looking straight up and down, boy, what an edge.
Huge.
So those concepts, when I hit the lake, even with an up and down machine, it brought different. I read the structure maybe a little different than a lot of other people because we've had that background in electronics, and so it did give us a huge technical edge on that. So, it's a matter of putting in your homework, and it's a matter of the level that you want to get to in any type of fishing. And so I mean I even did that in fly fishing. There's things I brought across and did crossover applications that was probably not conventional fly, but it was different. It's a different crowd. At the time, I kind of boo-hooed that because these guys would say I'd rather sip fine wine in a lodge with real crystal than catch fish, and I would tell the guys that's because you don't know how to fish. And I didn't pull any punches with them because a lot of them were real eggheads. I got to tell you, they're the purists and this and that. I go, you know what? It's about figuring it out. I once went up to the chutes and fished with. We took the Marriott's guys, who were supposedly the cream of the crop fly fishing. And Marriott's is here in Fullerton. It was the biggest fly shop in the country. And we took up their managers and everything, and gave them a tour of G. Loomis. But we go up to this private section on the chutes, and supposedly they're eating a topwater, a skunk butt, with fishing a 7 weight. And I also took a 5 weight because I just got back fishing with my cousin in Utah, who's a guide and phenomenal fisherman. And Stu taught me a lot. So anyway, I've got a 5 and a 7 weight. And these guys come down and they fish this one little section. There's a mile and a half of river, folks. In 2 days, those guys didn't move 100 yards. So I walked down, I talked to the cop that was in the parking lot that fishes every day. So there's intel right there. They walk right past the police, the sheriff, who fishes every day. Now, how smart is that? Well, if you know everything, supposedly it's cool. I'm talking to the guy that's fishing it every day. And I said, is that the only spot? And all four of them were fishing right there, right? He says, oh, heck no. He says, go down about 3/4 of a mile. There's an island. So I fished around the island. I'm catching these red sides. Beautiful. We had a double dropper on the 5 weight. And right at sunset, I hooked a steelhead. I just got smoked. And I almost landed it, but it got into the rapids, and I couldn't see my footing. And it's really slick, even with felt soles. You had to have felt with cleats. And so anyway, I ended up breaking it off. And I didn't tell those guys I lost the fish because we were going to fish the next morning and then fly back to L.A. So I went back out there, fished a 7 right where I caught that, hooked that big steelhead. And nothing. So I went back to the 5 weight and got one. And it wasn't huge. It was probably 8-9 pounds, But I got him with 4 pound, and I got him with my 5 weight with a midge. So when we get back, the guys go, "Hey, you get one?" I said, "Yeah, I got one." And I said, "What, you get them on the skunk buck?" I said, "No, I got them on a little midge on my 5 weight instead of the 7 weight." And they go, "Well, that doesn't count." And I just look at these fly guys and go, "You guys are complete idiots." It's not about what you're going to sit there and throw the skunk butt for 2 days and not have one fish chase it, or you figure it out, folks, and you catch a fish and land it and release it. Okay, it's about figuring it out, and it's no different from when you're out tuna fishing, bass fishing, any type of fishing. It's making those moves in your head, trying different things, and figuring it out, folks. That's what it's all about. Not this is how you catch it. There's no such thing. I mean, yeah, there is. You can get stubborn about something, and just throw. And I've had guys come on and go, "Well, all I'm going to do is throw iron." I said, "That's fine, but they're eating the baits." They throw iron all day. They go, "It's pretty tough fishing." I said, "No, not really. It was good fishing if you would have thrown a fly line sardine, But, when you get things stuck in your head and you get stubborn about it, you'll pay the price for it at, different times. So you have to have that ability to read what's going on and to adapt and to change.
Beautiful. That sounds like a good life lesson.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You could implement that any way, you want to take that, but it does work. You need to find something that's going to work for you, and that works.
Tommy Tar has
Yep.
such an important question, Danny. What do Phil and Danny eat for breakfast on a sport boat? Danny, you first.
Whatever they serve, on the long range boats, there's going to be different breakfasts every day.
But if
I
you're on one of these local boats, do you have a breakfast sandwich? Do
Yeah,
you have a
on a
breakfast
local
burrito?
boat, probably a breakfast burrito's handy because you can just carry it around and you got everything in that little hand. But, I got to tell you, that was another thing. We used to take my crew over to Gardena Bow after we left here at 22nd Street, run into Gardena. It was open till 1 o'clock in the morning and go eat, all your Portuguese sausage and
Yum.
fried rice and stuff like that. Well,
Making me hungry.
I was the first one to do George would make fried rice on his boat on the New Hustler, but he only made it for his crew. I got a 30 cup thing, and I had a big grill on the Mustang. And we started serving this stuff to our Buddha head groups and throw 2 eggs sunny side up over the fried rice for
Care to
them on our
define
groups.
Buddha head for
Oh,
everybody? out there?
us
Oh
guys.
my God.
Us guys.
Don't start that. You're gonna get us.
Hey,
thrown
listen,
off
we
you.
got thick skin, and all the Buddha heads out there know it. And you're fortunate because you got to eat that stuff. So anyway, we started making the bacon fried rice, and then we called them the hawk jeans or the round dice.
Yeah.
You white guys, okay? All of a sudden they were
At a
like,
time
"Hey,
when
man."
we could actually joke about.
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff.
well, you know what? That's what we're missing these days.
Absolutely.
We have to laugh at ourselves and have some thick skin,
Yep.
rather than get sensitive
I
and
agree.
cry about it.
100%.
Otherwise you're going to find yourself shopping at Target now and all these other Anyway, I won't go there, but, yeah, you'll be drinking Bud Light and stuff like that. But anyway, no, we won't get political. I'm sorry. But I'm old school, and you're going to have to deal with it when you're listening on here because that's just the way I feel. We believe in Jesus. We believe in the American flag, and I'm sorry, that's just the way I was brought up, folks. And I'm not changing. So, that's the way we go.
People
But,
respect that.
yeah. So anyway, we started making this fried rice now for all the groups, and it made more sense because in the old days you had to make sausage, you had to make bacon, you had to have ham, and you're doing all these individual breakfasts with hash browns. Well, it took three hours to feed everybody on the boat. I could cook the fried rice, knock it out on this big grill, throw it back in the rice pot, that big 30 cupper, keep it warm the whole time so you could eat it all day. Scoop it out, just put 2 eggs sunny side up or over easy, scoop out the rice, throw the eggs on top, and bingo, you're done, man. And so you not only gave them something that was different, it was fun to eat, it was unique, and now you're going to find that probably if you long range fish, usually one breakfast on one of the sport boats now has that for breakfast for the most part. I know in all the boats I fish they do. So when you're out there for more than a couple days, that becomes part of it. So, it's fun, and so even in that, the culinary aspect of the sport fishing boats, I wanted to go outside the box with it too. So, that's just the way my mind goes, guys. Yeah.
All right, Tommy, my favorite would be if I'm doing the keto thing, bacon and eggs with lots of cheese, a bacon and eggs cheese omelet. I do. I'm with Danny on the breakfast burrito, and I love chorizo. It's so healthy and good for you. Chorizo with chopped jalapenos, onions, cilantro,
Con huevos.
loaded up con huevos. Exactamente. No papas. And I'm good with that, man. Jason Lawler says the 2-day trip coming up has an epic menu. Phillies to wings. All right, that sounds good. Jason Lawler, where you were talking about your freshwater fishing, said he used to fish trout there with his dad when he was a kid. Great memory, I'm sure, Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Isaac, do you guys have any albacore tips? I've never caught one, but I want to be prepared if they show up. What do you say, Danny?
What I'm going to tell you is go practice fly lining, taking a clothespin out in front of your house, maybe wetting the line, taking the clothespin and firing it. So you want to have something that's going to weigh very light that you could fly line. I like lower collar hooking them, butt hooking. I mean, it's going to depend on the bite, but usually my lower collar, it hits the water, it goes down, and it's gone. You know, and so it's the lighter line. Probably practice casting 20 pound with a smaller reel. But now the smaller reels have great drags. You know, so that's going to make a huge difference. The one thing I had mentioned earlier in the show was for albacore in particular, I have not seen a better hook than the ringed. They have a lightweight gamakatsu, okay, and it's got a little tiny ring on it. And the number 4 hook, I think the number 2 weighed, what was I saying, Phil? I forgot what the grams was, but it's just unbelievable. It's 350 milligrams with the ring, and it's a solid one-piece tiny ring, but it's so light, and it goes into the chovy, and you lower collar hook that thing, and I mean, I was getting, I don't know if it was lucky, but I'm sure it's the tackle too. That with 20-pound fluorocarbon, I was getting bit. I mean, virtually every cast, you know, but a little chovy, you know, if you don't think you feel the difference, if you took a straight, same size, the number 2 or number 1, number 4 mustad hook, I think it was instead of 350 milligrams, it's 450 milligrams. Now, 100 milligrams, you and I can't feel, but I guarantee you that little chovy can feel it.
Yeah,
It
right.
makes a difference. So,
Exactly.
and that hook is plenty strong for the albies. So, depending on my species, I change my hooks too. So that makes a big difference too. All those little things. And you don't have many people doing that, but we had a friend, Dave Oshima, who we call him the professor, actually took the time to weigh all these hooks and to quantify all these different things, and made a big difference. Understanding that now I know why I was getting a bit better too, with that particular hook for albacore and things like that. So there's a lot of little tricks, a lot of little things.
All right, very good. Cue ball albies like cedar plugs and fly line sardines, just like yellowfin, pretty much. Fun fish to catch. Joe Valerio, hey Danny, what is your all-time favorite bass lake to fish?
It probably had to be Castaic because that's where I got all my real big fish, right? But one of the fun lakes that I had just a phenomenal time at was down at Vail Lake, which is a private lake. It wasn't initially that way. The initial stocking was through Fish and Game, So it was funny because it was kind of a private lake. So I talked to my fishing game buddies, and they said no. He says the state regulations supersede that because we put all the initial forage fish and everything into the lake. So he says, I said, so can we take live bait? He says, yeah, but just be very slick about it. He says, don't openly do it. These guys were using artificials. So if you want to hear the story, you're going to crack up. But anyway, I think I may have even told it before. Did I? On Avail?
About what now?
Avail Lake?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Yeah, go ahead, because there might be
So
people
anyway,
who've never heard it.
Yeah, so Vail Lake was a private lake, but initially, like I said, the state Fish and Game put in the original stocking of forage fish and bass and stuff like that. So we didn't know, other than my buddy fishing partner, along with Taka, it was a guy named Freddie Ichikawa. He used to work at Naval Shipyard. Well, one of his sons went out there, took a bucket of crawdads, rented a boat, anchored a boat off this one point, threw it out there, gets a 13-pounder. And I'm going, wow, that's pretty good. So I said, maybe we ought to find out, where else are we going? And so we go into Taka's, and Taka says, yeah, I heard about one spot. He says it's straight across from the launch ramp. There's a point, and there's a tree on it, and sticking out about 2 feet out of the water. Okay? And so I had my aluminum boat back then. And so Freddie and I go down there, not knowing anything. We bring, okay, so here we have these big 747 tackle boxes loaded with crank plugs, spinner baits, and everything else. Well, the very bottom shelf, we had other backup baits and everything else. We took that whole bottom area, which was about this big. It was a big box. It was the Plano's biggest box at the time, right? Take all the tackle off the bottom. Well, I was able to get 5 dozen crawdads in that bottom shelf. Okay, Freddie put, I think it was 2 or 3 dozen water dogs like this size in the bottom shelf. So we had, if you look at the top, here's all these artificials on the top, right? So we were being kind of slick about it. We took 2 rods, a 10-pound rod and a 12-pound rod, because we used to fish in Casitas with light line. So we launch and we find out, like I said, the guy said, what do you know about it? He says, well, there's a tree straight across from the launch ramp sticking 2 feet out of the water. So, and it's off a point. So we dump it in, I drive across, and, I see this tree, but I go, off this point, I go, man, that's not 2 feet, that's like 8 feet out of the water. It must be blind. So anyway, I go over there, I meter it, and as I'm metering it, I'm getting these arcs, huge arcs on my graph. And I go, holy smokes, so I mark it. Turn around, spin around, dump one anchor, dump the other anchor, tighten up. My first bait, I'm fishing 10-pound. I cast, and I get a 10-something. Freddie's throwing a big water dog. It's not bit. So I put on another crawdad, fire it out there. I get a 9-something. And Freddie's still throwing the water dog. I go, Freddie, what are you doing? So he starts firing the dads, and I should have told him. I should have got up on him more fish. But we started whaling. Freddie and I are very competitive fishermen. He's one of the best fishermen I ever knew. Freddie passed away a couple years ago, but one of the greatest fishermen. Also one of the guys that grew up fishing in Old Pier Point and Pacific Landing, along with another friend, Pat Riley, and these guys were all phenomenal fishermen, right? So anyway, but we're very competitive. So mind you, the only time we'd stop was to net each other's fish. And, back then it was a real pride issue to, for these 10-pounders, because we're mounting them and we're scoring them. And we're also in competition with all the San Diego skippers too, right? So we're whacking these fish, and I'm looking, I'm going, Freddie, stop, I said, I'm going to have to count these things, And it turns out we had a little bit more than what we should have because, like I said, we're both competitive. But in doing so, we lost a lot of fish because as a bass boat would come by, we'd just kick the bait, we'd kick it in free spool, and this fish would swim up and it'd get us in a tree, talk on it,
You don't want everybody to know you're king catcher.
No, heck no.
Yeah, right.
We're really indiscreet in this aluminum boat, right?
Yeah.
And I had it rigged, it was very, unassuming. And I'm sitting there, I pull up binoculars, I'm looking across the lake, and I see all these bass boats gathering off this one spot, and I see this little top of a tree about 2 feet, and I go, hey, Freddie, I think we're supposed to be over there, right? And so, nevertheless, we ended up running out of all the bait. And what happened was, we had more than what we should have had, so we fished till we had no baits. In other words, we went through all 6 dozen crawdads. We went through the 3 dozen water dogs.
Wow.
We didn't have one bait left.
Wow.
Right? And it was unbelievable. So we were releasing some 10 to 12 pounders after.
Wow.
So what we did when we got back, like I said, I'm looking at these guys, these bass boats, big bass boats all around this one little stick. 2 boats fishing. I go, that's what I think Taco was talking about where we're supposed to be fishing. So anyway, we're done at 10 o'clock in the morning, Phil. We never even eat the lunch. Rosemary, his wife, made us, the rice balls and chicken and the whole deal,
Yeah.
right? And we never even opened up. So we pull out, we get to Taka's tackle shop at 12. And we had asked them to go the day before, and he said, nah, I'm not going to go, So anyway, he comes out in the back and he sees there's the 5 fish in the back that, you know, were laying in this back well. Well, those are the ones that Freddie and I went a little slightly over our limit with.
Yeah.
And, you know, the smallest one was like 8, right? So he looks at it, he goes, "Oh my God, those are beautiful." I go, "Yeah, pretty good. Come up here, get on the wheel well, help us lift this ice chest." So he gets the ice chest, and we can't budge it. He gets in the boat, we lift it down. He puts it in the parking lot, opens up the lid, and he says, "You blank holes." And I said, "We left them biting. And you know, it was unbelievable. So we weighed him, and you know, what we released and stuff. We went way over 100 pounds.
Wow.
If you took the 10 biggest fish.
That's
right?
amazing.
So,
Wow.
So I'm pumped. Freddie has to go to work next day. I said, "I'm going back tomorrow." So I'm reloading. I'm in Taka shop picking up more crawdads, and I had crawdads and stuff at home. And we went Rainbow, picked up a few more water dogs. I said, "I'm going tomorrow. Taka, why don't you go?" Katie tells him, "Taka, go." Well, Taka didn't want to leave Katie right at the shop by herself. So I go down there. Conditions are the same. I forgot who fished with me that day. We never got a bite. We never got one bite.
Wow.
So
What a difference a day
Oh,
makes.
unbelievable. So I finally about 10 o'clock. I said, "Let's get out of here." So we pulled the boat out. We headed back. I'm filling the boat up at a gas station. And I start chuckling. He goes, and my partner says, "What are you laughing?" I said, he says, "Give me that water hose off the gas stations have those water hoses with the air hoses down
Yeah.
there." Well, I fill up an empty ice chest with water, right? And I put it in. We drive behind Taka's shop, and he comes out. I says, "Taka, grab the ice chest." Now I had just offered him for him to go fishing.
Yeah,
that day,
right,
right?
exactly. And
I
he
says,
turned
"Get
you
up,
down."
get up here, and lift, help us get the ice chest." Well, I thought he was going to throw up. He was so, it's or cry, one or the other, right? So he gets up there, he goes, he can't budge it, and I could see him just go, "Oh, I'm bad." I missed this
full
day
of
to do.
the most
I asked
epic
him to go,
bass
yeah,
day.
yeah. He lifted it out, put it on the ground, opened it up as water, and he calls me the same thing, "You blank hole." So
That's
anyway, I
great.
mean, we've had so many fishing stories over the years, but it's just fun. But that lake was phenomenal. I mean, I went there one time by myself, and I made 6 consecutive casts for fish over 10. I had 6 fish over 10
Whoa.
in 6 casts.
That's awesome.
It was unbelievable. And I took a friend that never caught one. It was crying. It was a good friend. I said, "Okay, I'm going to give you a first cast," and he got one. I mean, that's how good it was, back in the heyday.
Amazing. Amazing. Izzy says, "Danny, when you bass fish, did you use straight mono or did you use braid with a top shot of mono?"
Braid didn't exist back
Yeah.
in those days. Braid didn't exist till my sea daddy Russ Iser brought that in. I think that was in '91. I fished some of the prototypes. He actually gave me before the Spectra. He gave me Kevlar, and I'd cut out my finger because it's very abrasive. But he went through a lot of trial and error in those early days. But it wasn't until I think it was 92, 91, 92 where we actually had the Spectra. And that was pretty crude, 3, 4 carrier stuff. Some of the first experimental stuff I used before Spider, where went to Russ and started producing it once they sponsored us, with the radio show and everything. But no, straight mono. I used 10-pound XT for virtually everything at one time. We were able to fish a little heavier down there because there was more structure, more trees and things like that. And they weren't as finicky as they were at Castaic and Casitas. They didn't have current as Casitas and Castaic did, so it was different. But the fishing was unbelievable, And I did dump one probably close to 18 right at the boat, and that was my fault because I don't know if you remember Tony Garza. It was the Berkeley.
Tony Garza.
Yeah, Tony
Great
Garza.
guy.
Tony gave me an
Love
experimental
Tony.
line, and I made the biggest error in playing with that line one day at Vail, and I had one that was about 18 that the line broke about a couple feet down, and it was big, and that was right. Sandberg got one about 18, about the same time, so it was kicking out some really, really big fish at that point too, but so that's another thing, another lesson learned. You don't experiment when it's that time of year when you're fishing those trophy fish, just like you would if you're out tuna fishing, you don't play with anything new unless it's tested and proven. So keep that in mind with any facet of your fishing, especially when it's game time. Go with what you know it works. It's hard to you can experiment to a certain extent, but it may be with a new jig or this and that, but make sure the welds are good, everything's, dialed in. Maybe do a pull test on it, and put it on a machine to see what it'll test. But it's just a thing that in general you want to keep in mind. You don't do your experimenting at game time. You do that when you're practicing.
All
So
right.
there's a lot of lessons learned, honestly.
Absolutely, 100%.
Especially for us. Yeah.
Let's get that like button up to 50. Come on, folks, hit that like button, please. We really appreciate your great support. Danny Isaac asks, have you ever fished Diamond Valley Lake? Any tips?
I've never fished the lake when it officially opened. I fished it 4 times with Fish and Game as they started. I think it was like 3 or 4 impoundments where they started fishing these impoundments, and they started to grow out. And as they filled the water, it would encapsulate this other body and this other body until the first trip we made, and it was just 4 of us. It was Mike Giusti, John Bannicky, and I can't remember the partner I had. We were fishing on a pontoon, but all we had was a meter, okay? And it turns out like Wendy Tochihara and another guy, plus the 2 Fish and Game guys, had 304 fish or something like that. And
Hey, Trev.
that was like the record for the day. And so, like at right around noon, and it was flat calm, right around noon, we had about 80-something fish. I go, wow, we stink, The wind came up, and those fish went off. And we had to measure each one, and we weighed a few of them, measure them, and then let them go. But we ended up, and we stayed a little bit longer, so we kind of cheated a little bit. We stayed a little longer than Wendy and them did, but we broke the numbers record. We went over 300. I think it was
Wow.
312 fish.
That's amazing.
But it was phenomenal. But they were all the smaller stuff, really like this. Right?
Yeah.
And so I went 4 times, and each time the numbers would go down, but the size went up. The last time I was throwing swim baits, literally fish traps and stuff like that with lead head, and they would throw them off. But a lot of those were all like 4 to 6 pounds, and I think the worst day we had was still over 200 fish. So it was phenomenal fishing. But I've never fished that lake since they opened it. It was all as the lake was spreading out to all the different, and it was starting to fill. But it was phenomenal. But I have never fished it since they opened it. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Hit that like button, everybody. By the way, when I said hi to Trevor Downey was just walking by. He's the captain of the Freedom. They're getting ready to head out, and we've already talked about some marvelous fishing. I'm assuming they're going to continue that. Cue Ball says wire hooks, anchovies for albies can get to be a finesse thing anyways with albacore sometimes. Joe Valerio, fly fishermen, here's his analogy. Pretty good one, too. Fly fishermen are like skiers, and traditional fishermen are like snowboarders. That's my analogy. And I think what he's trying to say is they're a little more down to earth, right? The fly guys can be elitist. However, my college professor, Nick Curcione.
Oh, I knew Nick well.
I talked to Nick a few times
Really?
this week. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
He's doing good. I had lunch with him not
That's
that long
awesome,
ago.
yeah.
If you guys out there were to Google Nick Curcione fly fishing, you'll see all the books he's written on fly fishing, and he's a down-to-earth. He's a really funny guy. You know him. He's a great
I know
guy.
Nick. I know
Nick's
Nick.
out of control.
I know Nick, and
He hasn't changed.
He fished conventionally too.
Yes.
Back
Yeah,
then. So there was
absolutely.
a big difference.
Yeah.
But when you get around that flat crowd, if you fish bait and stuff, you're dirty.
Yeah, I know.
You're
And
dirty.
Nick kind of would do that once in a while.
But no, it's funny. My cousin is probably one of the best fly fishermen in the country, and I learned under him, right? And he guided President Carter and Roslyn, and I didn't even know that until I was at his house, and I'm going through the hallway one day, and I see a picture of Stu with Jimmy and Roslyn Carter. I go, hey, what's this? He says, oh yeah, they had Secret Service snipers up in the hills and choppers up and this and that. I go, you got to be kidding. But he's different. He's a no nonsense guy, and he'll joke around about it. Where your serious fly guys are they're the purists, this and that. Well, guess what? in all aspects of fishing, people, figuring it out is what it's all about.
Yep.
And like I told you, when you have the arrogance saying we're only going to fish a green skunk butt and this and this and this. No, no. It's like, they're eating the deans and you're going to, I'm only going to get them on a brown bait or a chovy. Well, good luck. But
Yeah, right.
that's, you stay with it, you don't catch anything. Go, well, it's pretty tough. No, it wasn't tough. It's you didn't figure it out, pal.
That's right.
So in any aspect of fishing, you got to have your mind open. You have your ears open, your eyes open, and your mouth shut, and just watch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
learn, because that's how you learn, people. And you'll figure that out. I mean, I had to do that on that freedom trip. I'm sitting there talking to myself right when we got there because I'm fishing light line. I'm out cast. I'm with that 9-foot rod. I'm throwing past all the skippers, and the dean took off, and I'm going nothing. I go, what the heck? It raced off. It should have gotten hammered on that run. I had too short a top shot. Then I went to my 25, which had a little longer top shot on it. But folks, I told myself, what a dummy. I'm telling myself, what a dummy. These are bluefin. The only rod that I had a longer length of mono with the fluorocarbon was my 30. So I fished my 30, and here I'm fishing guys they're fishing 20, I'm fishing 30, and the first fish I hook, I can't stop, and I went, what the heck? And most of these guys were getting, remember the first round?
Yeah,
Phil?
yeah.
All these like 20 pounders.
Yeah.
And I go, what is wrong with this fish? Is it tail hooked? I can't stop it. But I went, on every fish. I never hooked a small one, but it's figuring it out, folks. It's figuring it out, and they're bluefin, so always keep that in mind. They have better eyes. They got the best eyes in the business. I had to go through and evolve on the hooks that I use because I straightened out 2, including a Gorilla Light, along with that Gamakatsu, because initially when I saw those 20-pound fish, you get bit with it. Well, yeah, I got bit with it, but I straightened it out, So you'll go through a learning curve, and that whole process was a big learning curve, And unfortunately, we couldn't get them to eat the heavier line. They wouldn't eat 40, but 30 was the thing. And when you start when you're targeting 60 to 100-pound fish with 30, that's not the easiest thing in the world to put on the boat. But it's all about learning and figuring it out, though, folks.
Cue Ball says, amen, Danny, to all of the stuff you're talking about tonight. Isaac says, thank you, Danny, for reinforcing the thing Phil says every day. Make friends with the deckhands and crew who are out there every single day.
Absolutely. You got to, when in Rome, you got to do as the Romans, right? And we talk about that when you go down to Mexico and fish. The things change, but you got to adapt. You can't go down there saying, "This is how I'm going to get them. I just want to fish the iron." No, you fish whatever they eat. You got to, and figuring it out is what it's all about. And I've seen that as a captain on the boat. I saw guys come on and say, "I'm only going to get them on the surface iron." Well, I watch these guys throw the iron a day, and I'll tell them, "Hey, throw a bait." Now I'm just going to throw iron all day. Well, they throw iron all day, and guess what? Goose egg. I'm trying to help the guy. I'm seeing this stuff every day, and you can tell when they go off on different baits and different things. And if they have a hot iron, I would tell them there's a hot iron you could utilize. But you can't get stubborn. You have to watch and observe, and that figuring it out is the thing that's probably the most gratifying part about fishing, folks. That's why we do it. It's not always what you're catching. It's what you're learning is what's important in the long run.
Mike V, love it. Respect for you. Greg B, come on, folks, hit that like button. It's important. Let's support Danny. He's our family. He's our encyclopedia. Joe Valerio. Hey, Danny, do you recommend mono top shot for fishing albacore, or will braid to fluoro be fine? I'm sure when people were catching them back in the day, it was mostly mono being used, correct? Yeah, right?
Oh yeah,
Straight
oh
mono.
yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, back before in the old days, it was you're using Dacron. I can remember my grandpa having this, and I made the mistake of getting rid of it. We had this it was made out of wooden dowels with big 2 cylindrical circles, and he would take off, and you guys may not know that, but what they had was linen line. And you had to take that line off your reel, wash it, dry it, and then repack it back on your reel. And I got rid of that. that winder. I should have, just for keepsake.
Yeah,
That's another
right.
thing
It's
I
a
could have-
historical
Yeah, I
piece.
could have left it at Joey's, and it would
Yeah.
have been something. You go, what
Yeah.
the heck is that? Well, that's what they used to wash their linen lines with back in the
Hey,
day.
hindsight is always 2020. You know, you
Yep.
never know. All right, Isaac says, any tip for fish processing or do it at home and tips for keeping the fish fresh? Eat it within the first couple of days.
Yeah, it's always best. It's always best. But no, I when I go long range, I have a certain amount processed that I'm going to keep at home and stuff, and give a certain amount away. And I like to give most of it away. I mean, that was my dad's philosophy. He said, give it away fresh. Let everybody enjoy it fresh. It'll come back to you, and it does.
Hey, I'm doing a show here,
know,
Steve.
so,
That's
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Hey,
So
the galley
that's where
cook
it's
of
at.
the Freedom is
Oh, cool.
saying hello. Sorry
Cool.
about
Yeah,
that,
you never
Danny.
mess with the cook, man.
We got all these guys coming
You
by.
never mess with the cook.
Steve,
They're
give me
the
some
important
more
guys on the boat.
video. Hey, Steve came by. Trevor came by. We should get these guys to come
Cool.
in here and say hello.
Yeah.
But sounds good. All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, eating it fresh, right, is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you fish.
I can remember one time, and this is probably in the 70s, 80s, we'd have a freezer in the garage, and it was when they used to wrap the fillets in the freezer paper.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And my dad went in there one time and saw a date. It was from 2 years before. And he just went in there and took a trash can, put it all in the trash, says, you know what? Give it all away,
Yeah.
and it'll come back to you anyway.
Yeah,
And it
I
does.
feel that way.
It does. And let
Yeah.
everybody enjoy it while it's fresh. I mean, that's when it's the best.
Absolutely, 100%. Greg B. Bates says, ditto, Captain Dan. Izzy says, Danny, did you ever fish for smallies?
Oh yeah, they're a blast. They're a blast. Whole different deal. You just scale down. I did fish lighter lines for them, and I fishing the artificials, and also some of the small like crawdads and things like that for the smallies, and they're a blast. It's totally different, and you can do that at Cachuma. At one time had a really good population. I think it's more dominant northern strain still, now than ever. But back when I was fishing in the 60s, 70s, there was a lot of smallies, and you get some. Well, actually, we had some fun tournaments where we did bait, and it was all catch. We'd weigh them and then release them, but I can remember releasing like 4.5. It's a big smallie.
Yeah.
And have one show, and having to release it because we were getting bigger largemouth, and we were doing team fun tournaments, back up there. So, but yeah, they're a blast. They pool harder. I fish them lighter line generally too, but yeah, it was a blast.
Nolan Oshihiro, is any update on the availability of Semper rods? He's coming in late, so he didn't hear you
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, no, we have them going. Give us a call. I think if you go back here, I'll give it to you again. It's call me directly, 310-283-7954. And they are going in production. We got, we finally sourced a new guide source that we're going to. And, and Brad Kono, who's been here on the
He's
show.
been on
with
the
me,
show.
too.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
We got our handles now in production. And so these things are starting to spit some of these out, And yeah, you'll love them. You'll love them. It's totally different. I mean, I'm going to give you an analogy. And there's a lot of the old school guys that won't get this, and I'm not slamming you. Everybody's entitled to their own beliefs on stuff. I'm strictly about performance, guys. And on my performance stack on it, which means you really should know how to fish. Before you implement a straight graphite rod, they will outperform everything, but you have to know how to pull on these things. But you give us a call. There's a lot of them that are going into production now. We finally, after COVID, everything's getting squared away. The handle production's there, so you can get the graphite handle to match everything else to go with it. And you'll just, number one, I'm going to give you an analogy. It was like fishing the old original graphite rods that we had at one time, and then going to, when I took on G Loomis, you took on the Loomis rods, and it changed the game. And this is essentially the same analogy, only with saltwater rods. They'll handle the big fish, and like we said, if you don't believe it, you could look back on our tape from that Freedom trip. That one rod was the only rod I implemented all day. It was a 30-pound rod, and I never hung a small fish, but they were all that 60 to 100-pound grade, And so typically you would never fish, I would never fish and target a fish for 30, but we couldn't get them to eat the 40. And you had 40, 30 skippers on the boat that were tremendous fishermen. So, if you can't get them to eat the 40, nope, they're not going to do anything. So, to be able to do those fish on the 30-pound was pretty amazing. So I credit the tackle.
Good stuff. Dave
Yeah.
Clark is here with a good update for us, getting us up to date on what the Searcher's been doing. Mike, Searcher Skipper, said decent action, 50 to 100 pounders on Tuesday night, and good action on 80 to 150 pound bluefin tuna last night. Going to Cortez for a change of scenery and to catch those big yellows that are biting out there. That is really awesome. Acme Danny. Told you I'd catch you one at Lake Martinez a couple of weeks back. Got a 6 1/4 pounder on a chatterbait in a foot of water. Wow.
That's such a fun place to fish down there along Colorado and stuff. And I don't know if remember an old tackle shop years ago. It was called Wayne's Tackle in Norwalk. It was real close to Bob Prescott's place. But Wayne Canaday and Tommy Canaday. Tommy was a tournament bass guy, and Wayne's Tackle, that was his dad. But at one time, Taka and I fished with Wayne. Taka fished with Wayne, and I fished with Tommy. And we took my little Luma, and we fished. And you fish all night, and you sleep during the day when it gets hot. You just turn the air conditioner in the RV. But you fish all night in the evening and stuff, and it's just phenomenal fishing down there on the river. All those little areas around the Martinez and Oxbow, Cibola, all those places, phenomenal, unbelievable. 6 1/4 is a heck of a fish down there, pal.
Nice job. David Alcantar, can we petition to open up Lake Matthews in Riverside for fishing to the public? Sure, you can petition, right?
Yeah.
Will it do any good?
I got to tell you, we talked to, I talked to guys, some of the old captains. There's an old guy that, his name was Herb Curley, one of the great fishermen
Herb Curley, I know the name. I don't think I ever met him.
He was a great skipper,
Wasn't he up in the bay, Santa Monica Bay, or no?
No, he was here in Pedro.
He was,
a great fisherman.
Yeah.
And he used to fish Cachuma. He used to fish all these places with old Langleys and crawdads. And
Yeah.
He did a lot of crazy stuff. But, I don't know where I was going. Where was I going with that? Where am I? I'm going back up. Oh, Matthews.
Yeah.
He used to sneak into Matthews, right? And he used to commercial fish largemouth for Chinatown.
Oh, my God.
He was a hoot. He passed away a few years ago. He was a great guy. He was funny. But he would wear these chaps because there's so many rattlesnakes out there. And I remember one time guys go, hey, you want to go out the Matthews? You just have to wear these chaps. So what do you need the chaps for? And I remember him telling Taka, because he was another captain back in those days, when Taka was running boats. And he says, for the rattlesnakes. And Taka goes, nope. Never went. I did get to go in there with Fish and Game.
Yeah.
And, whoa, unbelievable fishing. We were doing sampling, and we found out that the largemouth were very healthy, okay, and that, of course, they were feeding on the crawdads and some of the natural forage there. The other fish was the shad, and they had a ton of stripers, but these stripers looked like barracuda because they were skinny because there was not enough shad.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they weren't, and the stripers weren't crawdad eaters.
Yeah.
Apparently, So we found the bass that were very healthy looking, but the stripers, and they caught, and they were taking as many of the stripers out of the lake as they can because they're very prolific. But it was fun. I've been very blessed to be able to fish a lot of those places with Fish and Game.
Yep.
And you learn a lot from all that too. So that was a neat deal.
Cue Ball is talking about the learning curve and how you have to pay attention to everything. And he says, yep, the ever-changing evolution that happens on every single trip. It's new every time. I just understand it all a little bit better now. And time on the water will do that.
You know something? It's funny you talk about that because I talked to what I think is one of the best fishermen down here. And Bobby Gonzalez, I don't know if you know Bobby, but he fishes with Dave Orodomo. These guys are great, phenomenal fishermen. And Bobby had not a tough trip. I mean, tough for him. And, but he was just timing or whatever it might have been. He was telling me about it, and he was a little frustrated. I said, Bobby, don't worry about it. Everybody goes through that, And that's going to happen to, I don't care what fisherman you are. When you cast to the to this spot, the fish bite on this spot. It's just one of those days. But when you're a good fisherman, you're compelled to continue to learn things, and you gain from that. And when I talked to Bobby, I said, you're too great a fisherman to even worry about that, because we all have days like that. And if people tell you don't, you're lying, because I've had days we've all had days like that.
Absolutely.
But it's about figuring it out, folks. And it's just keeping your eyes open, your ears open, just watching, And sometimes sometimes you have a tough trip. And what's funny? I think I learn more on a tough bite than I do on a wide open bite.
Yeah, probably.
Because you're searching more, you're thinking more, So sometimes it's a good thing, and it's a good humbling deal for me too.
Yeah,
I
for
it's
sure.
a great deal. Yeah.
DJV says, just for the record, Danny, you look much taller on camera.
We're gonna have to stay on camera, Phil.
Jason Lawler, who's galley cook, galley chef on the Amigo, says, I love when people ask me for help prepping their gear. But being on the water every day has shown me how important conditions are to the bite. Current probably is the most important thing. If it's right, everything will get bit. But I've learned when to fish hard and when to chill by just paying attention to conditions and not get burned out when the bite is not happening.
That's the blessing you have of being on the boat every day. You get to pick and choose your times. And if you're in the galley or whatever it might be, what the beauty of that is, when they're really biting, there's not going to be anybody in the galley. So guess who gets to go out there and hook in hand or whatever? You do, right? So that's perfect. And you already have that advantage being on the boat, seeing everything, and chances are good. You run out the bait tank, first bait, pin a bait, and it's first cast. That's just the way it works. You're out there on the water. You're into. You know exactly what the idiosyncrasies are, what's going on day to day, and that's why you should always listen to the crew. Period.
Dan Bates. Danny, I just saw an old video of you and Dan Hernandez on YouTube bass fishing. Really good stuff.
I took Dan out, and I think I had Bob Krupe with me too, and we ended up catching a 10-pounder on camera, which was cool. But yeah, that was a neat deal. It was. I did a lot of shows with like In Fisherman and Fishing the West. It's funny in dealing with all these different guys over the years. I think the most astute, anglers out of all of them were the guys from In Fisherman, and I see a lot of similarities from the guys that fish the Midwest and the Southern California guys, more so than, say, and I'll give you an analogy. The Northern California fishermen, the way you fish bass in Northern Cal is more like you would if you were down in Texas and down in Florida, down in the South. But the way Southern California fish with lighter lines, more finesse, is very, very similar to the guys up in the Midwest, upper Midwest, that fish the walleye and all these things. Their mentality is very similar to ours. And, and I give those guys at In Fisherman all the credit. To me, they did more homework when they came out to do the show with me than I saw with anybody else. And that's, Roland Martin and all these other guys that I did shows with over the years. Some of the Texas networks and the guys came out, they didn't understand and they didn't do their homework like the In Fisherman did. Those guys did homework as far as history goes and everything else. And they were also very impressed with some of the levels that we took it to. I sourced aerial photographs before some of these lakes were filled to find structure that would still exist on my meter if I found it. We took it to a different level, and that's what it takes. That's what it takes with any type of fishing. So,
Absolutely. Cue Ball says Jason is totally on point with his observations about current. Isaac Matthews got me 2 years probation.
well, see, you got to.
Fishing is great. It was well worth it.
You got to go with the fishing game, boys.
Israel, Danny, did water dogs get banned? I used to use them at San Vicente when I was younger.
Yeah, I think they did. California, leave it to our state. I mean, they couldn't reproduce, so they really have no harm as far as I was concerned. But it was a very expensive cost for us even back in those days to bring them in from Arizona and stuff like that. I quit using them. There's times when I always wanted a swim bait plus the crawling bait like the crawdad, right? And it was a much bigger bait, so you had to have. We were fishing those more with 12 pound, and that was the heaviest line I ever fished on all those lakes, fishing those big fish. And with the 10, I fished 8, 10 with the crawdads, but it was very expensive. It was hard to keep. You had to keep them in a refrigerator, so it's pretty limited as far as how much you could have all the time, unless you dedicate a refrigerator to them. You know, and like I say, it's just the expense. And the other thing that why I quit fishing was I never got a fish bigger than 14 on a water dog, where all my big fish, the 18s, all those fish that I hooked, and those ones that I lost, I know of a 20.3 that had my hook in it, and I dumped a big one at Casitas with Corky Yokoi that one day, but they were all crawdad fish. So, there's a reason why they eat those crawdads at that time of year, folks, and December through March. It's because they're spawning, and Mother Nature tells them they need that calcium and cholesterol from the crawdad for their egg development. So there's a, ecological reason. Well, a natural reason for them to want that in their system, as opposed to swim bait.
Jolene Thompson. Jolene, it is so nice to see you here. We love you. Hi, Danny. Do you use the owner ST66 treble hook on your knife jigs at night?
I don't. I have so many hooks, Jolene. I repped, Spro Gamakatsu, so I had a lot of heavy Gamakatsus and everything. Although, the one thing I noticed on a lot of the Japanese hooks is the barbs aren't as big as, say, like your mustads and hooks like that. So there's a lot of different things. They are sharper. I do like them for more of my finesse fishing. But I don't, the best thing to do is talking to your tackle shops that test them, and that's going to be the biggest things. When you're talking about putting them on a knife jig for a big fish, just talk and make sure. Most of these guys will do tests to tell you, how much strength they have and how much they could take. That's going to be the most important part for you. Okay, so I would talk to your tackle shop, and I trust what they say.
Naughty Boy 78, my favorite part of Dan Hernandez's show was the galley. Maybe Jason could do something like that. Jason was doing that with us at one time. He says it sounds like a good idea. I will tell you right now, it'd be a fabulous idea. Jason's a great chef. He's got a tremendous personality. It'd be great. I'd love to feature it on Freeman Adventure. It would be great. It'd be a beautiful part of our show. Jason, film one this trip. I think that's a great idea by Naughty Boy 78. Naughty Boy 78, shout out to Dan Hernandez. I still go to Hotbox for fish tacos when I visit L.A. So there's a guy that loves Dan and goes to the same place. Well, hey, Danny, it's time to wrap this up. While we have a little breather from...
Oh, cool.
We've been going for 2 hours.
Are you kidding? What a windbag. Holy smokes.
And they'll throw us out of here if we go too long.
Oh, my God.
Danny, another great show. Can't thank you enough.
God. Hey, thanks for tuning in, folks. And write your questions down. We'll get them answered.
Yeah, well,
we'll get them
be
answered
back
for
next
you.
Thursday.
That's exactly it.
Be back next Thursday night for sure, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. You got your Semper rods. They're starting to rock and roll now. That is great news. And, man, Hotbox, Naughty Boy 78 says, best fish tacos. I can't wait. Cue Ball says, thank you, guys. Thank you all for joining us.
That's awesome.
I'll be with you in a few hours on the morning briefing. Looking forward to seeing you all there. There's a $10 bill from Israel. Israel, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Both you and Isaac for contributing to us. It means a lot to us. We really, really appreciate it. And Danny, another great show, man. Sharing your knowledge with everybody. It really means...
We're just getting started. I mean, there's no end to it. That was the whole thing behind fishing anyway. If I couldn't learn something new every time I went out, I was not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
And that's the way you guys have to perceive that too. You go out and you may have a tough day, but if you learn something, you've gained a lot.
Absolutely. Naughty Boys, I can't read. My eyes are shut. Holbox. 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 540 Slinger. Good night, Phil and Danny. Good night, Jeff. All my best to you.
Good night,
Jason
guys.
Lawler. We love you, Jason.
You bet.
Have a great
Good
night.
night, guys. Have a good week.
A good one.
We'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, Phil.